Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the November 9th Joint School Committee meeting. I'd like to call to order the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee
And call to order the Concord School Committee?
with a roll call because we've,
Yes.
yep.
Anderson present.
Booth present.
Morano present.
Mustafi present.
Rady present.
Wilson present. And I'd like to accept a motion to move to executive session.
I move that the Concord School Committee and the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee will enter into executive session under Purpose 3 of the Open Meeting Law to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding the EDCO Collaborative, and return to open session at 6:30 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson.
Anderson, aye for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Mustafi, I for region.
Rainey, aye for both.
And Wilson for region. Thank you. See you all at 6:30. Well, welcome back to the open session of the November 9th School Committee meeting.
Sorry, that's me.
Let's get started with our CCHS student update. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. So as far as Senate goes, I know you heard about some of this during the last meeting, but we're still kind of in the midst of planning Spirit Week, which is like an annual tradition during the week right before we get out for our Thanksgiving break. We're going to do a badminton tournament this year, which is going to be really exciting. I think we're going to get a lot of signups, and we're going to have like food trucks, stuff like that. We're also doing a blood drive in combination with Boston Children's Hospital, which is like a long time event that we've been running for a long time. And we're also planning Powder Puff, which is a football game between the junior and senior girls. As like a school in general, I feel like the attitude around COVID has been relaxing or at least calming down a little bit. It's been really nice to have the desks back together. That's something I wanted to talk about super quickly. I know the teachers are really excited to be able to like arrange their rooms in like groups and tables and things like that again. And a lot of students have been excited about that as well. And also, I personally wanted to say that I feel like teachers in general have been really mindful about like learning that we might have lost over Zoom or like in the past couple of years, especially in my math classes. My teacher, and I know a lot of my friends' teachers have been really good about taking time to go back and go over things that we maybe should have learned in a previous year. So yeah, it feels like things are going well overall. I think for the most part, people are happy to be in school. They're happy to be seeing everyone and like doing extracurriculars again. And yeah.
Fantastic. Great.
Great to hear.
I know.
We couldn't ask for
All
more.
good. And then-
But I don't know if we'll see you again before Spirit Week, so good luck with that. It sounds like it's going to be a
Yeah, it
really
should be fun.
great week. So, yeah.
And then
Thank
have
you.
a happy Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much for this report. Request for you, if my colleagues agree, could you keep on your radar student efforts around sustainability?
Yeah.
And maybe in a month or two, give us a bit of an update on.
Yeah, of course.
Your-
There are a
your-
lot of
your-
clubs and things that I can talk about during our next meeting for sure.
That'd be terrific. Thank
That'd be
you.
great. Thanks, Harry. Anybody else?
Thank you. Okay. Public comment. As a reminder, if you, you can see on your Zoom.
No, I quit because I was having audio difficulties. Ms. Morano, how many people are on Zoom?
15.
There are about 15. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you see somebody raise their
Yep,
hand.
so if you have, we have no members of the public here in public, so Tracy, you can monitor if anyone uses the raise hand feature in the participants tab.
Yes, will do. I'm looking now.
Okay, thank you.
No hands are raised.
Okay.
Okay. So on to recognitions.
So I'm realizing I told them 7 because initially we had thought we'd
Okay.
be coming back from exec session then, so they'll be on at
That's
7.
fine. We can-
go back.
Fine, we can go, yep. We'll return to recognitions.
Good.
Okay. Reading of the minutes from open session 10:12. Everyone have a chance to review?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Taking a peek.
And I'm not hearing any changes?
No.
Edits?
Nothing.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Sure. So moved.
Thank you.
And we need a second?
Second?
Second.
Second,
All right, discussion?
just a note that in the Section 9 discussion, COVID updates, reference to vaccination rates have remained stable. So that what you were telling us was they really peaked, and we're not perhaps anticipating much more growth except for the 5 to 11 that are coming on now, correct?
Correct. We've peaked at just under 90% at 7th and 8th grade and just over 90% at the high school.
Okay. And reference to analysis of the athletic revolving account, is that something that we could expect to see by year's end? That was referenced here as well. Just want to know when we can kind
I think we will do our best. We're in
Wrap
the
that up.
budget building, but we will keep you posted on,
of, okay,
we definitely can bring it to you. I might just need to be January.
fine. Yeah, I said year end, meaning I'm not
Oh,
holding
got it,
my
okay.
breath. but
Perfect, then
yeah,
yes.
fine,
Yes.
okay. Good, thank you. I think that was all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, a roll call vote, please.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Mustafi, I for region.
Rainey, aye for both?
And Wilson for region. Correspondence on my end, had some correspondence about the coffees, and just making sure that
Yep.
all members of the community
Yep,
are involved, yeah.
yep. Good.
Okay. Chairs and liaisons reports. Alexa.
I don't have much. Eva and I will be at the special education CPAC board meeting this coming Monday. We will have special guests with us, which will include Principal Cameron, Lori, Dr. Hunter, to discuss the middle school building project. We are excited about this important meeting for them. So
Great. That sounds,
I'll let Court do the big building committee updates.
why
since
don't we
I
do
was-
that in the Concord
Great.
portion?
Great.
Just so we can box it all up, if that's okay with everybody.
Makes sense.
Better, yeah.
Art, do you have any?
Policy Subcommittee met, and you'll see the results of current work later this evening. A few of us went to the Carlisle FinCom. I imagine Jared or Lori will report whatever necessary there. The core group met last night. Their numbers are growing again. A really quite effective community initiative. They reported out what some of us know. Good news that the select board, I believe, affirmed all of the DEI subcommittee candidates. So
Yep.
that group is up and running. And on Sunday, the Concord Nanai group met and reported that they've been in touch with Principal Mastrullo and with David Gresco, trying to set the stage for some resumption of more Concord and Nanai exchanges in the future.
Right. Exciting part is David Gresco's agreed to take on lead of the Nanai relationship, which we needed with Phil, given Dr. Nuremberg's departure. So it's definitely getting back on the radar. And I think Zoom will give us some opportunities to start reconnecting with them, which are exciting.
Tracy?
So the DEI subcommittee is meeting tomorrow, and we are going to meet via Zoom. And hopefully we're going to have our meeting set for the rest of this year. Paula Martin's going to join us tomorrow, along with, all of you guys are welcome to come, but I guess you can't participate. You can observe. And I just wanted to give a quick update on the school committee coffees. We had a very well-attended one at the public library. I was there with Alexa and Sarah. And I think we had maybe like 5 or 6 people, some people brand new to Concord, brand new to Concord Public Schools. which was great. And so they were looking to connect and kind of figuring out what we do. We talked a lot about the building project, and there were certainly some questions, that we brought back. And we have another coffee on Saturday, and it will be from 12 to 2 at Metco Inc. in Roxbury. There is parking behind the building. So because this is public, I'll just say it to everybody. There's parking behind the building. We're hoping to have a little bit of a tour before we have a very informal coffee. And there's an exhibit space downstairs that the public can see. And we are offering that to Concord, Carlisle, and Boston families to join us. And I believe that's going to go out on Dr. Hunter's social media. It's been in all the school newsletters. There was one school that had a change in people doing the newsletter, so it did not get out at Alcott, but they're having a PTG meeting tomorrow night, so they're going to push it out for us tomorrow night.
Nice.
And that's it.
I think too, Heidi Harris has more reminders going out as we get later into the week.
Yes, and she already sent a reminder out to Boston families.
And we've tried to send it out also to trying to figure out a way to send it out to Carlisle families who don't have kids in the high school yet, because that's something that's been raised, is what about rising families who may be interested in all of these conversations?
Absolutely.
And how to get them.
Yes.
Yep. So spread the word to anyone in your networks that, we can certainly do more coffees throughout the year, but this will be probably the last one until January, just because of weather and masking. And it is mask required at Metco Inc. because they are in Boston. So indoor events need to be masked.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Great. Eva, do you have any?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Liaison reports of progress.
All right. And Cynthia? Good. Okay. So superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. I'm really going to highlight just one item that I would like to spend a few minutes on, just so you hear what I'm doing. The rest we're certainly open to have questions and conversation on as you see fit. It was in a really exciting first session. I'm attending the Massachusetts Association for School Superintendents Professional Development Series entitled Leading and Learning About Race, Racism, and Equity, a pilot superintendent leadership practice network. So this is I was actually part of the initial discussion of whether we wanted to go forward with this, because I'm on the MASS DEI committee at the state level. And this really unique opportunity arose where we're working with the authors of the RIDES project out of Harvard, which just is structurally an approach to the DEI work that Andrew's certainly using as a bit of a roadmap. And we're working with those authors, Dr. Darnisa Amante-Jackson and Dr. Lee Title. And what they've recruited is a mixed group of leaders at the district level, a group of white leaders and a group of BIPOC leaders. And sometimes we're together, and sometimes we're in affinity groups. And it's this really interesting melding and merging of discussions of race in the schools and our approach to leadership with race, both with the affinity group in kind, and then a really unique opportunity at a more substantial level to really talk across the racial piece with other leaders across districts in the Commonwealth. We're reading texts, so there's homework involved and coming prepared. One is a book on race, and one is an adaptive leadership book. So we're looking at theories of both. So we've had our first meeting a couple of weeks ago. We meet again next week. Really, really valuable time spent. The gift of Zoom means we're easily accessing it. And I'm really, really intrigued to see what's going to grow from this and what we're going to gain from it. I know I'm professionally gaining, and hopefully that's always impacting everyone around us. But really unique opportunity, and I'm just grateful MASS had the creative vision. The RIDES leaders have done similar superintendent trainings in other states, with the exception of the two different affinity groups. They've never done that before. So it's been just whoever signed on and whatever mix of race it happened to be would participate. So this is very intentional. And I think going to be really beneficial. And certainly I'm storytelling when I get off and Andrew's getting texts all through the meeting and discussion. So I just thought it was worth highlighting that since you'll hear me talking about it throughout the course of the year. We meet monthly.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so discussion. Was there any questions about any of that for Dr. Hunter?
No.
No. I like the rides framework of it. They give you a really nice way to conceptualize what the work means.
Exactly.
It's very worth checking out, I
Yes.
think.
Yep.
They're actually breaking off from
Yes.
Harvard, and the acronym's going to be a little different. I can't remember it exactly, but they're creating their own standalone nonprofit group to
very
work
good.
with, and
Great.
going to
look
be
for
able to
them.
do their own thing.
Yeah,
Neat.
We'll keep you posted on that.
Good.
good.
All right, so,
One question, maybe we don't have the information tonight. The high school grant app that went to Emerson Hospital,
Yes.
is that Emerson Hospital as the grantor, or are they a conduit for other monies? How does that work?
It's Emerson Hospital as the grantor. It's part of their annual grant awards, right? So,
So they did a study of the needs of
right.
the town, and they came up with 5 areas that they need to work on. And the biggest area for youth was mental health. And so Allison, at high school, have been working on this idea of having a place where kids who are not needing just to see a weekly counselor, and not admit to the emergency room, but somewhere in between. I think of it as like urgent care for students who are going through mental health. It needs attention now, but probably not admitted to hospital. So that's what they're going to do.
And is it perhaps CC specific, or is it, it's not Emerson's catchment? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. COVID updates.
Okay, let me screen share the latest data.
Oh, should we just check in? So who are we, who's
So we're
presenting
looking
the,
at
the,
Craig Cohn and
photography?
Maggie. I don't see either of them on.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye out. So COVID, some updated information here. This was as of yesterday, since I put it together yesterday. You'll see the patterns are holding nicely here for what we're seeing for case numbers. So we're glad for that. We're remaining pretty steady so far at 1 or 2 a week. We do have 2 already this week, yesterday. So we're going to keep an eye. So that's still good news. Our total case count is 38 as of yesterday when those 2 happened. As you've mentioned, the vaccine rates are stable and seem to be holding where they've been. Testing is also seeming stable. I think these numbers are very consistent week to week right now. You'll see participation at the elementary schools has been really exceptional. Middle school strong, and then the high school remains at about 100 a week. So we're consistent. Still testing them, 2,000 people a week, which is still really valuable for sure. DESE updated a couple of things this past week, minor in nature, generally clarity of how to test on the short weeks. The answer was don't test on the short week, which is upcoming Thanksgiving, and a little clarification on a few other things, again, mostly minor. The big news this week is the Pediatric Vaccination Clinic. It's being held tomorrow and the 17th at Alcott, mostly because the high school had bigger events going on, and we just wanted to hold the dates. Those are the enrollment numbers as of today: 740 kids tomorrow and 662 next week. Pretty exciting. And that's Concord and Carlisle. Everyone who wanted an appointment has been able to get one there. I talked with them this morning. There's a few open slots at 8:30 at night, which is late, obviously. So we're all just really excited that all has come together. Right before we met, I put out information from the Concord officials just on details of the logistics with traffic and all of that. And then we will be collecting, well, two things. One, the second shot dates are not determined yet. The vendor wanted to secure his supply chain before he set the dates. And then number two, we will be asking parents to upload the vaccine, just like we did with the 7th through 12th graders, so we can track it once the kids are fully vaccinated. Probably the one to really make note of and see if you want to have any discussion tonight is the upcoming winter sports season. I talked with Aaron John because he'll be on later for the tennis donation, so we can talk with him then, and he's happy to do that. We are not expecting much in terms of guidance from MIAA or DESE. It appears we're mask mandated, and beyond that, all the other guidance is sports occurring normally, which is very much what happened in the spring, so that doesn't totally surprise me.
We're all indoor. It's a little different.
What's that?
Mostly indoor.
Correct, but correct, right, but in the winter last year, we were running most things that were scheduled for that winter season, which admittedly now we've pushed everything into its normal season. So wrestling's coming up, other typical basketball, other typical indoor activities.
Those are relegated to competing just in the DCL. So I'm wondering if it's going to go back to.
It's back to normal. MIAA is running normally.
And technically, the mask mandate is a school-based decision at this.
That's what I'm just.
No, MIAA is considering this DESE mandate as guidance to everybody. So since that was extended through January 15th, now they haven't been tested yet in a Hopkinton or any place that's starting to opt out. The messaging they're giving is you're under the DESE mandate.
That expires January 15th.
Correct.
And winter sports go much longer than
Correct.
that. So
That's something,
okay, it's
that's
something to watch.
think about.
It's something to think about.
We'll just have
Oh,
to.
you mean
Not advocating one thing or
Yeah.
another, just,
post January 15th, you mean?
Yes.
yeah, that it is something we will probably have to be.
We'll see. We don't know.
We don't know.
Yes. All
I
right.
didn't know if you wanted to talk anymore on that. We do need to start registering. All that's starting to get up and moving with registering kids, and there's a fair tomorrow and things like that. So if you had any concerns or questions,
I think we'll just have to
Talk with Aaron when.
yeah,
figure out what's
yeah.
things we don't know. Yeah.
Learn the things we don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll hope it goes as normally as possible.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right.
Okay,
So that's the status of COVID.
okay.
A quick question about the testing, the vaccinations underway now. Was this just serendipity? Was this?
I'm going to give full credit to Carlisle, the nurse over there. Some document DPH put out said you could sign up for mobile vaccination clinics. Lauren spotted it and signed up and got a call fairly quickly. And then from there it evolved. Concord had been working on another vendor coming in. We all ended up on a call together with both sets of health officials and started to maneuver a plan, which evolved as the dates and availability and such with the vendor emerged. So
the lesson.
Carlisle really took the initiative and was quickly responded to by the state.
So the lesson here is be very attentive and be very, very proactive.
Yes.
So that leads me to our wonderful health director, Susan Rask, is going to be with us for the balance of the school year.
Right.
So I think we're going to need to see that we get that managed so that we have as an aggressive a posture as we can about getting these resources, or they're going to go right by us and we're going to miss them.
Sure. Absolutely.
When does she leave? Can I?
December. I don't know the
I thought
date, but
December 15 or
Yeah, I
something.
think that might be it.
So
I know the assistant health director's been on a few of the calls, trying to be sure people are getting looped in.
the reason I'm making a point of it is I think we ought to really share this Carlisle story as an example of how proactive we're going to have to be through the balance of this health emergency.
Yep.
Listen to everybody, read your emails thoroughly.
Check your inbox.
Yes.
Which is no small feat with how much
No.
you're still
Yes.
getting on COVID.
I know, no, Lauren, that was great, because she does it, I mean, like, she's the one, yeah.
Really
What is the
great.
Carlisle nurse's name?
Lauren Sawyer,
Thank you, Lauren.
yep. Yeah. She's been remarkably, been a great asset through all of this.
Okay.
I had a question on just what lunches are going to look like at all the school sites moving into the colder months.
Good question. So at the elementary schools, we are rolling out lunch in the cafeteria as we speak. The desks from Newton are on site. Willard got started yesterday, mostly because they already had chairs and didn't have to wait for the chairs that we needed. So they started yesterday successfully. Alcott, I believe, is planning early next week. Thoreau is a little different with the fire and needing to open that modular wing. But the plan is that all the elementaries will be in the cafeterias. Distance, we're not required to keep distance at lunch, but we felt with the younger kids who are still just about to be vaccinated, the singleton desks just help give some structure to it.
Yep.
And they're used to sitting at their desks and eating. At the middle and high school, we're starting to move the kids inside as slowly as possible, as long as the weather allows them to be out. And what we're talking about right now, the high school is set up with the desks and a few tables here and there, and the kids can eat upstairs in the learning commons. Kids are moving desks together and eating in groups. We're not undoing that and forcing them to sit distanced apart if they want to. It seems valuable that some can choose to do that, because indeed some of them are. So they have some options. We talked about it at our meeting this morning. Mike Mastrulo felt like they were adequately furnished and ready to move kids inside as the weather changed. The middle school, same conversation, little slightly different feel. They're probably going to use some of their regular cafeteria tables and maybe only seat them. My watch is talking to
Yes.
me, I'm sorry. Siri must think I want something. So they're probably going to every other seat where they are still going to use the tables. They have desks at Sanborn and they're using tables at Peabody. So we're making the move in, but we're leaving people outside as long as we possibly can. The tents are here till December 1st. We extended that a couple of weeks ago. So the kids really are getting, elementary not yet, but the older kids are getting choices as to whether they eat with their friends or if they spread out, and we're being really fluid with that. I know, Tracy, you brought up socialization before. We think that's really important if they want to eat together, that we're allowing that. Okay.
And then I just had one other sports related question, and maybe it's better for Aaron, but on the larger sports teams like swim and dive and indoor track, they were virtual last year. So is the goal, are they going to be together this year and have like real meets this year?
Oh, yes. They definitely will. They definitely swam in the spring, and track ran in the spring. Indoor track, not as much, but the spring did let them swim. So I think we're ready to roll very normally this
Okay.
winter.
Yeah, okay, so that will be like going into Reggie Lewis with other towns for
That
indoor
could-
track.
As far as
We're
I
not
know.
sure. Okay.
Yeah, as far
Thank
as I
you.
know. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And just a shout out, I know Harry didn't mention it, but we have I don't know how field hockey did this afternoon. We have 4 teams that made the final 16 of the tournament. Some already moving forward to the final 8. So there's games all week long, and it's just been an exciting postseason.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Do we have our photography?
I'm looking. Greg's on. Greg, do you want to turn on your camera? Is Maggie on? Hi, Greg.
Hello. I apologize. I believe I communicated to the family that the meeting was at 7, so I
No,
apologize
that's
that we're late.
That's what I told you. Yep, it's fine.
Okay.
So I don't see Maggie yet.
I don't see Molly, no.
Molly, I'm sorry. So why don't we maybe do one more?
Yeah, just keep an eye on us and.
It's gonna be the
we'll keep an eye on
long
you.
one.
Yeah,
Yep,
we can
whenever you're
move
ready for me, just let me know.
facilities fees up, maybe,
Sure.
right?
Do you mind, wait, Debbie can wait a minute?
Debbie,
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever you'd like to do.
I think that makes sense. That
If
won't
that's
take
okay.
Too long.
No.
Debbie, we need to think like a 5-minute conversation about facilities fees.
Can Do we need a motion to move this around?
We should.
I move that we take item 9C, facility fees, and move it up on the agenda to follow the superintendent's report.
COVID updates.
Forgive me, COVID updates, thank you, yes.
And we just need a second.
A second.
And roll call.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Mustafi, I for region.
Rainey, aye for both?
Wilson for region.
Okay.
I can just frame this, and Jared and all of you can take it from there. So what we put together for you, and when I say we mean Jared's team and Ian especially, Ian Rames, put together some background history in a couple of different ways, and we weren't going to go through all of it unless you had any clarifying questions, with the intent of giving you the groups that have used the fields and the space inside, the amounts that they've had to pay to do that. And then yesterday, we also provided a snapshot of 1 year, which we went back to 1819, given it's the most typical year as of late. Jared's team has also provided recommendations, so those were also in your packet. And I think from there, we're happy to take questions or do whatever's helpful.
So just in thinking about this, I began to roll it around, and I thought, because I just think there needs to be a sort of a more wordsmithy and collaboration, that we push this to the policy subcommittee and have them work on it, hopefully maybe one session, perhaps two, but we'll see how the first session goes. Would the policy subcommittee chair be agreeable to that? Extra work or work?
I think that's fine. I think our objective is to see, well, we have a few objectives. One is we want clarity and currency with this, as does everybody. Two, we want to see that the schools are available for community use, but with some sense of priority to it. We are educational, we are youth serving, we are community-based, we are public, and so on. We want to ensure that nobody could use a public facility for private profit, private gain, in a way that was not in keeping with governmental objectives. I do have a specific question. I think this might go to you, Jared. Are you of a mind that we should resume our two-tier system, district-based nonprofits and all others, both of which follow school use and town government use? That would be the kind of priority? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, thank you. I was hoping you'd say that. Thank you. Happy to debate it. But my short answer now to your question, Cynthia, is yes. I think it'd be fine to bring this to policy. In fact, I've looked at other districts and they have done so, I think, to the great benefit of school administration, so that they're not put on the spot. Instead, they can point to school committee, and we can point to the fact that we've got an equitable way of ensuring that these fees get assessed appropriately. We're not here to generate money. No, we're not going to compete with Holiday Inn. And first and foremost, we're going to see that schools at Sunrise are ready to go every day.
Exactly.
Regardless of who was there the night before.
That's often a challenge.
All right, thank you.
I think it makes sense to keep track of it. It just promotes a more regular check-in with who's using the facilities. You know, obviously, we're not going to not to make money, but also not to lose too much, right? To make sure that
to protect our
make sure that the cost benefit
investment
analysis is regularly checked in on.
Exactly.
Okay.
My cursory analysis of the 10-year roster that you gave us was that it was very much in keeping with what I would have expected. I mean, I didn't see any patterns that were of note or any outliers that were of note, but rather it looks like what Concord and Carlisle might be hosting in its public facilities, very, very expected, I thought.
I just wanted to add that in policy, this will be revisited every 3 years at least, right?
Yes,
So
I would
It
say.
will be much more current than us all of a sudden remembering, what about,
It's been 10 years.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a pitch for every year in the following way. I believe that the fees should not change every year, but I believe that the custodial
Yes,
overtime
if
should
that changes.
consistently follow
Yeah.
because the contract, and that should be just baked in. We shouldn't be playing catch up on contractual numbers that relate to costs for a custodian to get our buildings open for a client.
Agreed.
And in policy, I can explain my rationale for the custodial fees being a certain rate due to payroll reasons. It would be the higher rate.
Of course.
Instead of switching it every
No,
year.
no, no.
It's a sort of a payroll nightmare.
Yes, because you don't know who's showing up.
And that can mean sticker shock for a first-time user
Yeah.
because they're going to bump into a rate that applies to a senior custodian who's been with us for a couple of decades. But it's the only way we can protect the institution is to set that rate so that we're not shopping custodians for certain customers.
And it keeps the
Not what
usage
we
fees
do.
equitable, right? So it's not that, yeah.
Yep.
It's just.
And it
something
creates,
that's
it
known.
creates an assured margin, sometimes a little smaller than another time.
Exactly,
Never designed to make money, but guaranteed not to lose money.
exactly. It looks like we're making money, but we're not. All right.
Okay.
I don't think we need to take a vote or anything like that. Okay.
If there's no one opposed, great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Consensus.
Policy Subcommittee.
Tracy, anything? You're all set?
Nope, all set.
Okay.
So I think we are ready to go back to recognitions. The Brannigan and Klein families are on, as is Greg Cohn of the high school. Greg, can I turn it over to you and then you'll make introductions and tell us what has been offered, and we'll be sure to say how grateful we are.
I will. Hi, Molly. I saw your grandmother pop in a minute ago. Now she seems to have disappeared again.
We see her. Yeah, we see her.
Patty Klein. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Oh, your screen's on already. I
There we
apologize.
are. Okay.
Okay, well, for those who don't know me, my name is Gregory Cohen, and I teach one of the 5 art teachers at Concord Carlisle High School. I teach mainly, I teach all of the darkroom photography classes, which is kind of what we're talking about this evening. And really, as everyone knows, we're a fortunate district to have a live darkroom still, a very nice one since our building is not that old. And the great thing about the craft is that film and paper and chemicals and all that supplies are still plentiful. What's not plentiful anymore are cameras, and it's sort of our great quest to keep our inventory going. But it's rare that we receive a donation and a gift from a family like we have this year. And you know, in the forefront that I've talked to the family about this, that condolences are in the front because it does come from a place of you know, loss a couple of years ago. And I'm extremely grateful. You know, part of what Dr. Hunter and Principal Mastrillo and really all the staff and faculty at CC try to do is maintain and build our relationships with students, right? We're always talking about that. More than anything that I teach, I enjoy being with the students. And I've known Molly. Molly was part of my last fully unmasked cohort. So it was some time ago, and a lot has happened between now and then. Her class used to sing in the dark room. It was a very happy place. And we've seen each other on Kahoot Zooms while we were out of school, and she always says hi to me in the hall, and we keep up on her political career at school. So this really came from a conversation. She asked me a question when I said, would you like an enlarger? Because I have my grandfather's old enlarger, could you use it? And I was like, sure, I can, because it was exactly the kind we have, and we can always use the parts or whatever. This turned into an email, I think, from Molly's mother, who got me in touch with with Patty, Molly's grandmother, and also Julia's grandmother. So Molly's sister Julia graduated in 2019. Is that correct? And I just have had the most wonderful conversations with the whole family, especially Patty, about Dr. Klein's life, his involvement with photography. And I can't express the gratitude. It's not just the dollar amount that's in front of you. This is sort of some of the nicest photographic equipment that was ever made, the cameras. It's things we cannot buy anymore. They're not manufactured anymore. And I will say that even if they were, these would not be in our regular budget, you know, kind of budget. They're very special pieces of technology and machinery and photo history. And I have a nice group of advanced students in the spring who I know and trust, who will be some of the first. And it's really going to help our program for years to come. This is not, these are cameras that students are really going to enjoy and love. So I will tend to talk too much. So I think I will say thank you again publicly for this great gift, to know that it's not just me, the art department. We had a department meeting today. They're all very grateful. We have a few photographers on staff and everyone's very, very excited. So thank you again, Patty, and for all your conversations with me on the phone. It was wonderful to speak to you. And I understand I'm going to receive a link soon with some photography from
Yes, can I tell the story?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
please.
Is that up?
Yes.
Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you.
My husband was a practicing physician. He was an internist, but he absolutely loved photography. And to him, photography was film photography. He had nothing to do with digital photography. And he had his own dark room, and we had in our apartment in the city. Laura used to work with her father sometimes. And then he took over my laundry room in our house in the Berkshires. And I hadn't seen the counter for about 40 years when we cleaned everything up. He passed away a year ago, August. And I can't imagine him being happier than, of him being happier than where this photo collection is. And to say nothing of, Greg, you're taking all that darkroom stuff I didn't know what to do with. It's really wonderful. And I think he would be so happy that young photographers are learning to do what he loved so much. So I'm very grateful. And I said to Molly, I think we should pick up one of his photographs, framed photographs, to give to you so that you can put together the work he did with the cameras. And then the other part that Greg was just referring to is in cleaning out all these bags and boxes and whatnot, we found a roll of undeveloped film.
Oh, my goodness.
And as it turned out, it's a kind of film that isn't even available. It's only seemed to be only 2 places in the country where you can get it developed. And I just did. And it turned out it was from a trip that we took to Alsace in France in 2012. So Greg, I'll show you the pictures and you can get an idea of, the kinds of things that he took. So I thank you so much for taking all of this.
Thank
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And
I think
we're
Molly
wel-
wants to say a couple words, if that's okay, Greg.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, so just what I wanted to say was freshman year, I took film photo and it was probably one of the best classes I've taken at CC. And I talked to my grandpa a lot about it. And there were 2 things that 3 things. He loved medicine, which doesn't really apply to this, and then photography as well as education. And so I talk about any class I was taking in history or math or science, especially film photo, and he just loved talking about it. And that was always very important to him. So I just know, and he also loved CC because both of my sister and I have had awesome times here. And so I just wanted to say, I know how much he would love to have all of his equipment used by students and people who want to learn and fall in love with film photo as much as he did. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank
Molly.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
And
to your
I'm
whole
taking-
family.
And Molly wanted to say one more thing.
And I'm taking advanced photo senior year, and I'm just really excited for that.
Oh, that's
That is
great.
great.
I think you'll have a camera to use.
I guess so.
But Greg, I really, until you spoke tonight, I didn't realize that most of these cameras are not even being made anymore. I think he sort of had one of everything.
I think that's accurate.
That's awesome.
Thank you for breathing new life into our photography
Yes.
programs and department. That's
Well, it
So
really
many-
is a win-win, isn't it? It's great. It's great. Thank you.
And that wonderful dark room, which I couldn't believe it when I first walked into it. And my son took film photography his freshman year. And it was definitely one of his, just great experiences to sort of take you off into, oh, God, that's how excited I am, into a different world from your, the rest of your classes. So it's going to turn this place into a really great place to explore all these different cameras. So thank you so much.
And can I
Thank you
ask
for letting
Greg,
us-
when I get to Concord the next time, I'd love to have a tour.
Absolutely, anytime you want. And thank you to the school committee for letting us all come in and tell you the story. It's been,
Well, thank you for sharing Dr. Klein and his love for his grandchildren and how that extends to all the students at the high school. And Mrs. Klein, you have placed this in good hands with Mr. Cohn, we assure you. You already know that.
I do, and that has made me feel very comfortable. So I thank you.
You like me to read a motion?
yes. No,
Yes.
we're going to do action items later.
Yes.
We have our action items later, so we'll officially vote to accept the gift. But I may go out on a limb here and say
Say that's gonna
proactively.
happen, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Graciously accept. Yeah.
Thank
Julia, Molly, and Mrs. Klein, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
all.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Okay, bye.
Okay.
I'll touch.
Okay.
Ms. Dixon.
Back to our regularly scheduled program. I think if you come up to sit next to Alexa, that probably, because there's a microphone there.
Come on over, Debbie.
That work, Mark? Okay.
She has screen
Good evening,
sharing.
welcome back.
She can screen share. I think she coordinated with Aaron, so
Okay.
Aaron may be doing the slides.
Okay.
The slides are up. So I'll
Yeah.
just give you feedback from the viewers at home.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for all of the materials that you've provided in anticipation.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You just, yeah. We'll just like close as you can. They want us to be. And Mark, let us know.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. And again, thank you for having me. I'm happy to share with you some of the work that we've been doing in special education for the past 3 months.
Can you just tell our viewers who you are?
Absolutely. I am Debbie Dixon. I am the interim special ed director, actually the director of student services here for Concord and Concord Carlisle. And I hope to share some information a lot of information actually tonight with you. In some of the work that we've done over the past 3 months since I've been here. I've been here since mid-August, and we actually have done a lot of work. I hope to target some of the areas that you were particularly interested in, namely the West Ed program review, as well as an overview of the programs that we are currently offering in the district. But before we delve into those areas, I wanted to share a little bit about the values and beliefs that I personally bring to the district that I think are important to what we do in special education, and that drive the work that we do for our students. So the first is working with an inclusive mindset.
Shoot.
So Tom Hare is the former director of the Office for Special Education at the U.S. Department of Education in Washington. He's also a professor, or was a professor, at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. He's conducted much research in special education here in Massachusetts and written many articles and research articles on special education. I've tried over the years to identify a definition of inclusion that I felt captured what inclusion was. Interestingly, in the laws and regulations that govern special education, inclusion is not found. It's not found in the federal law, IDEA, nor is it found in the Massachusetts law. But we talk about inclusion all the time. So I wanted to find something that captured what inclusion meant. And I landed on Dr. Hare's definition. It goes on to 2 pages, but I just wanted to share his thoughts because it spoke to me and captured my belief system. I want to share that inclusion isn't a location, it is a belief system. And I hope that everyone that I work with here in Concord and Concord Carlisle will share this belief system with me and promote this belief system. What stands out to me, well, everything that he said here stands out to me, but what stands out to me here for purposes of this discussion tonight is the notion of training everybody and supporting everyone so that we can promote inclusion.
Erin's turning the slides, Debbie, so just cue her if you need her to.
I know, it should be. Next.
I think she just turned it.
Okay.
Is that the one you
Oh, I'm
want?
sorry, yep.
Okay.
So this slide captures the essence of what I think we do when we provide special education and is fundamental to our successful programming. I believe our responsibility and our ultimate goal is to teach our students to become self-sufficient, independent, self-reliant learners who can advocate for themselves. It's much easier said than done. Our goal is to have students leave special education and fly on their own, to be independent and really to understand themselves, to have that self-awareness, so that they can advocate for themselves here in elementary school, middle school, high school, or college, wherever they are, when they realize who they are and what their strengths are and what their challenges might be. The way we do that is through good quality education, research-based materials and intervention. We need to teach the children and students the skills that they need that are impacted by their disability. And we need to teach strategies that they require to compensate for the disabilities. Children with disabilities have lifelong disabilities. They don't go away. We can remediate them, but they are there for lifelong. And we can teach children to circumvent them to get to the end goal. We do this through universal design, through accessible materials and technologies, and through accommodations and modifications. And the takeaway on this slide is that everyone owns the students and everybody is accountable to help the students. Next. And to elaborate further, we meet the new students' needs through a variety of processes and practices. Our charge is to meet the students' needs in the least restrictive environment, or LRE. Again, promoting inclusionary practices. What this means is that we want our students to be in the general ed environment or the general ed classroom, working alongside their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. Supporting the students with aids and supports and services like co-teaching. Our desire is to keep students here in their neighborhood schools, or at least within Concord and Concord Carlisle. We want our students to benefit from the rich curriculum and the robust curriculum that Concord and Concord Carlisle has to offer, if we can. Special ed is really only an extension of general ed. It's not a separate entity and shouldn't be looked at as a separate entity unto itself. And special ed is only as good as the general ed programming. As you can see by the notes here, the team in collaboration is the underlying process for all of the work that we do. No one does it alone, and it's really a team effort that includes parents. Next. So how do we do this? Again, with the general ed teachers are responsible primarily for the accommodations that we provide. The team may determine that a student's needs can be accommodated in a general ed environment, and the accommodations are provided to level the playing field. Next. Modifications are generally the responsibility of the special educator. And the modifications are truly what specialized instruction is all about. And it is generally a modification of the content, the instructional approach, the performance criteria, or the instructional level. And that really defines what special education is. Next. You may have seen this slide before. It's one that I love. The first picture here shows equality. Every child here is given the same thing, yet it doesn't accomplish the goal. The little boy on the end can't see. The next slide, the second picture here, shows equity or fairness. They're all given accommodations or supports so they can access the baseball game. The third picture, however, has removed all of the barriers. It's been preset and pre-planned and thought about. That's the universal design, planned for in advance. So to remove the barriers, so there's no need for accommodations or modifications, that the access is occurring without having to differentiate. That's our goal. We're not there yet. That's something that we're striving for. Next. So at this point, I'll just jump into the West Ed reports and share with you some highlights. I am assuming that you've all read the full reports. I'm sorry.
Again, for the people who might not have ever heard of West Ed, can you just quickly describe what
Yes, yep.
they did?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, no, that's fine. Please do. This is my first presentation here, so I want to make sure it's clear. So at the district request, West Ed conducted very complete program reviews of special education. The high school was reviewed in the fall of 2017. K-8 was reviewed in 2018, and the preschool was reviewed in 2019. It was an agency or a company that, an educational group that came in and conducted interviews, observations, surveys, focus groups, did lots of discussions and analysis of data and information, and compiled reports with recommendations for the district with respect to special education. The reports were quite thick. We've narrowed it down to a few slides here. And I think the full reports are available on our website. So what I've done here is just taken a few of the main areas that we've accomplished. So over the past 4 years, and mind you, through 2 years of a pandemic, it seems like the district has accomplished quite a bit. So at the preschool level, the recommendation was to extend the school day and to end the day at 3 o'clock, which we now do. The preschool was not included in professional development. It's now part and parcel of the district-wide professional development, as well as conducting its own professional development programming specific to the preschool. The preschool now has a full-time director. In the past, it fell under the leadership of the special ed director. So the on-site preschool director provides on-site leadership and program development. The preschool is now recognized as its own school. The preschool has a number of students who are ELL, and our ELL staff consults with the preschool and provides support to the preschool staff on behalf of those students. And lastly, transportation was an issue in terms, there was not a process providing transportation, so transportation was streamlined and reduced and is more focused. A couple of the other recommendations in the West Ed report were to add another full-day classroom, and there was also a recommendation to include or to add a floating tutor. Those recommendations haven't been realized. We're monitoring our numbers, but right now the numbers don't warrant that. We're pretty well staffed and the numbers don't warrant an additional classroom at this time. Next. The elementary highlights include some very important pieces. It appears that a lot of the work done in special education many years ago focused on completing classwork and perhaps homework. And the focus now for our special educators is on direct and explicit instruction in the areas of disability, the areas that are impacted by disability. So it is the specialized instruction. Tutors, we have many tutors here in our district to support students in class and out of class. They now work under the direction of the special educators. There's ongoing professional development offered to increase teachers' capacity and expertise. Some of the examples of professional development include Orton Gillingham training, Wilson Reading training, Empower Writing, all research-based practices. In the past, there's been executive functioning training with Sarah Ward, I couldn't remember her name. Jessica Minahan provided training on behavior management, and social emotional learning with Rachel Polliner, mindfulness with Chris Willard. Co-teaching was recommended, and we are piloting co-teaching in pockets across the district. And still working on that. And we have a coach that's coaching some of our teachers in co-teaching. And the recommendation was to increase the array of services that we're providing, and we've done that. And I'll talk more about that in a later slide. Next. The middle school is actually the same as the elementary recommendations. Co-teaching is occurring in 8th grade as a pilot program. The only additional recommendation was that a department chair be added to the ranks at the middle school, and that has occurred. Next. At the high school, there were many recommendations that were outside the realm of special education, so I really only focused on the special ed piece here. So the recommendations were providing inclusive support in general education by tutors, and that is absolutely occurring in many classes and disciplines. There's been an increase in the continuum of special education services and programs at the high school. Again, we'll talk about the programs in a bit. And the focus is now on direct and explicit specialized instruction rather than homework help or backup support for the classroom work. One of the other things that I think is worth mentioning is that there was a recommendation to create MTSS and RTI supports for non-special ed students. So the high school has done a lot of work to develop a framework for interventions and supports for students who are struggling. So they have meetings weekly to look at students who are struggling. They're collecting data, they're doing screenings and benchmarking, and talk frequently to identify those students and then provide intervention. Kristen probably would be the one to talk a whole lot more about it, but that's key to supporting a tiered system of support for students. The other piece that I think is great is a reading specialist is now at the high school, and the reading specialist is collecting data on students, and there's formal review of the data to make sure students are progressing in that area. And next, please. And we're still working on MTSS. We have a committee, or Kristen has a committee working on that for in the area of reading. We're working on improving the process of transition from level to level, building to building. We're continuing to work on co-teaching. There's some plans for this year and into the next few years, particularly at the middle school level. Within special education, working with our leadership team on district-wide policies, practices, and procedures. So there's continuity and consistency across the district. We're hoping to increase our parent outreach and communication. And we're working on expanding and enhancing the continuum of services for our students. Next. So these slides are pretty dense. I'm not going to read these to you. I think you've had a chance to review these. What I've tried to do is break down the programs and provide you with just a snippet of information about our programming. At the elementary level, we have learning centers, and I think learning centers connoted one thing many years ago, pre-Wested. Now they were homework help programs or backup classroom support programs. Now they are providing specialized support in areas like reading and writing and math or executive functioning or all of the above. And then all elementary schools have related services like OT, PT, speech. Transportation is considered a related service. Those are in place to help a student benefit from special education as needed. And then we have an SEL program at the elementary school called Branch. We have Bridges at Thoreau, an intensive learning program at Thoreau, and a language-based learning disabilities program at Willard. Next. At the middle school, getting away from the learning center model, we call the learning center is now called a workshop. Again, still accomplishes the same goal and works on things like reading and comprehension and writing and so on and so forth. The middle school also has an SEL program called Access. It also provides intensive ELA and math as replacement classes and language-based intervention in an intensive literacy workshop. Next. High school has academic support centers. So it goes from learning center to workshop, and the high school has academic support centers, again, providing very specific skill development in the areas of reading or writing or executive functioning or math. They also have related services for those students who need that. The high school has 2 SEL programs, Harbor and the alternative program, Alt-Pro for short. Bridges is a program for students with autism spectrum disorders. Next. And we have Pathways, which is a program for students with significant and complex disabilities. It's a life skills program. And then we have the transition program for students 18 to 22, which is based here. And this next page, I think, captures it in a much better visual. And it shows you the continuum of service, and it also includes the preschool. So speaking about the preschool, you can see across the board, we have a half-day AM and a half-day PM program, which is in yellow. In the continuum down, through all of the schools, through the elementaries, middle school, and high school, those students have mild to moderate disabilities and are supported through the learning center or workshop model or an academic support, assuming that they follow that trajectory. All of the programs from preschool through high school have the related services. At the preschool level, we have a lot of students coming in for itinerant services, which might mean that the students are identified with just an OT need or speech and language need. Then we have 3 full-day preschools, and you can see the multicolors in there, meaning that they have students that have social emotional needs, autism, behavioral needs, language needs, and they're all mixed together. From there, they might enter elementary school and be placed in a variety of programs, although my belief is that all children should be allowed to go to their neighborhood school if possible and start in our language-rich kindergarten programs. And from there, then we make decisions for programming. You can see at the elementary school where Branch, the SEL program, is at Alcott. Willard houses the language-based program, intensive learning program, and Bridges autism programs are at Thoreau. At the middle school, if you can notice, again, the SEL program, the intensive ELA math and intensive literacy program, I don't want to say that it's a language-based program. We offer language-based programming there, but it's not a program per se. It's something that we might want to look at. I think we need to analyze that. They also don't have the intensive learning program or an autism program, something that we need to consider as children move up through the ages or grades, the grades, and as they enter middle school. We have the programs at the high school, but we're looking at the language-based programming at the high school as well. So we'll do this through this budget season, and we'll do this hopefully in a cost-effective, in a budget-neutral manner, and reallocate existing resources. Next. So some of the focus areas that I have, based on what I know, again, after 3 months, is taking a look at our programs, defining the programs, and developing the programs more. So enhancing our existing programs, developing entrance and exit criteria, extending that continuum of service, as I just showed you, filling in any gaps that might exist in our programming at various buildings, and really establishing the program components. What does this program offer? what makes this program special, and making it a high quality program with those components, and establishing what those might be, whether it's consultation from outside providers, whether it be a staffing pattern, whether it be certain training pieces that need to be in place. We are also, I think I mentioned this earlier, looking at continuity and consistency of approaches, practices, evaluations, interventions. What we want to make sure of is that a student at Willard gets the same thing as Alcott, as Thoreau, and then as the children move up to middle school, they all get the same sort of trajectory and interventions as they move up, not different things from different people. So we want to have that continuity and consistency. So we're updating our process and procedures to be efficient, effective, making sure that everybody understands what the rules are, what the laws are, so we abide by them and ensure compliance. Always seeking efficiencies in what we do. We're looking at our IEP development and our process. And of course, the dyslexia guidelines are at front and center. There's a lot of work going on in the district with regard to that. Next. So I'd like to share some updated numbers that were just developed by the state. Every October, March, and June, we submit our data to DESE through our Student Information Management System, or SIMS for short. And the next slide, or the slide that you're looking at, has our updated figures. And the way to read this, I'm sorry, there's a lot of numbers on this page, but for our preschool population, we have 25 as of October 1st, and this is just a snapshot in time. October 1st, we had 25 students with IEPs in those programs that I just talked about, and 33 community peers. There's not a percentage because our goal here is to have more community peers than students on IEPs in our preschool programs. At Alcott, we had 45 students on IEPs out of 418. The number in parentheses next to that is the number from the June head count.
Yep.
And that's to be expected because we graduated fifth graders who moved on to sixth grade. And the percentage, so the percentage at Alcott, if I did my math correctly, it's 10.7% of the students at Alcott are on IEPs.
While we're looking at this, I just want to take a moment and commend you for making this so very clear, taking us through it so very carefully.
Yep.
And I want to back up to how you opened with your statement about your guiding values. I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're new, but you've come a very long way on our behalf, and I think we're all very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but
I appreciate that interruption. So in total, we have 310 students in K to 8. So 310 out of 1,998 students, which is 15.5% of our student population. And then at the region, we have 219 students out of the 1,323 students, and that's 16.6, which is already reflected here. I think both of those numbers are just at or slightly below the state averages. Not that that's a target, it's an average. My belief system is that it doesn't matter what the numbers are, it's that our students are getting what they need. Next. So these are the disability categories that we work with, and these we have all of the disability categories represented by our students here in Concord and Concord Carlisle. These numbers, for those of you who may be mathematicians and might be checking the numbers, these don't add up to the numbers on the previous page, because this does include itinerant students, out-of-district students, and preschool.
Okay.
So this number will total 640 students.
Is there any overlap in these categories?
No.
No, okay.
The multiple disabilities is not counted into the other.
No, it isn't.
Thank you.
So when we do our reporting and our work on our IEP system, we have to identify a primary disability for each student. There may be students who have secondary and tertiary disabilities, but we need to identify the primary disability, and that's what is reflected here.
Excellent.
I think the interesting, typically here in Massachusetts and across the country, specific learning disabilities is the highest category of disabilities. It's highest here, but not by much. Neurological and health are the other two higher categories. Health is high because it captures students who have attention deficit disorders, and neurological is curious to me. Federally, if a student has a neurological disorder, it means an acquired brain injury. Here in Massachusetts, being Massachusetts, we're a little bit more liberal with our definitions, and the state has given a little bit more freedom to use that disability category. I still think that's high for us, but it is a pattern that we're seeing here in Massachusetts, that neurological is being used a little bit more.
What would be an example of the way it's being captured liberally? Because that number struck me too.
Yeah, the example, that's a great question. The one that comes to mind is that we have students with attention deficit disorder. That's a frontal lobe disorder. And we have oftentimes students with attention deficit disorder have executive functioning challenges, which are also found in the frontal lobe of the brain. We also have students who have executive function disorders without attention deficit. Those are the students that they're saying are neurological.
Okay.
We also have students, that's one example. Another example might be students who have pretty even profiles, except working memory on a cognitive test might be really low, might be 2 or 3 standard deviations below, and it really impacts their ability to sit in class and listen. And those children might be considered neurologically impaired. Those are the two that come to mind. I think those are
good ones.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the are the 504 kids, they're not captured in the neurological, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
504s, I think I wrote that down. I think at the elementary level, we have about 75 students on 504s. And at the, K to 8, 75 students. And at the high school level, I want to say it was around 120. So I might be a little off. I'll double check those numbers. Okay, Erin, next. So what does it cost to educate all these students? These are our budget drivers. There's lots of areas, but these are the areas that probably are the biggest ticket items in our budget. The out-of-district tuitions, the corresponding transportation, although if we have students who are leaving their neighborhood school to go to another school for a specialized program here, we are also providing transportation to those kiddos. We have lots of special educators, tutors and assistants. We have lots of contracted services, and we need supplies and materials. We need those research-based supplies and materials for our students. And next, please. These are the costs associated. This is the working, or what was budgeted for this year. As we move into the budget season, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, we'd like to see the tuitions go down. We'd like to see the students in district. I feel strongly that a district like Concord and Concord Carlisle can meet the needs of the vast majority of our students if we develop high-quality programs, staff them, and have the training and the supports in place to support our teachers, to support our students. There might be a space issue, there might be a capacity issue, and it doesn't happen overnight. So it's something that I would like to start exploring. We have the foundation in place. We can expand on that and grow those programs. And again, in a cost-neutral way, it's shifting the dollars. So it's reallocating existing resources and coming out in a budget-neutral fashion. And I think that it behooves us to do that. If you think about the numbers of students who are out of district, I need to say that there are some students absolutely who require out of district, whose needs absolutely exceed our capacity and who belong in a much more specialized program than we can provide here. And then there are students who we can create programs around and individualize and support here. And that's what we want to try to do. So those are the things that gets me excited and what we want to try to do. With the resources. So it's just shifting those resources and being creative, thinking outside the box, getting the training and the supports, and allowing our kids to access the buildings, the curriculum, the experiences here, their friends, the community, if we can. Next. And next. So very quickly, DESE, I just have a couple of DESE updates. So because of the pandemic, students with disabilities missed a lot of services because they were not able to access the remote learning. That said, I know that Concord provided in-person learning last year. This was directed to last year's experience for students. That said, we still need to address this at every IEP meeting. Our staff has been told this, the staff is looking at this. And we may be responsible for some compensatory services for some students who met this criteria. Next. And then I know dyslexia is a very hot topic and it's very important to us. These are just a couple of points that I wanted to mention. We are very excited to be working on this, and as are many, many teachers here. Kristen is leading the K-12 MTSS for Struggling Readers Committee, and we have 23 members at least. And given the dyslexia legislation, the direction from DESE, this committee is focused on looking at screenings, working with data to identify students who have a need or have markers of potential dyslexia or reading challenges, providing targeted instruction to those children, progress monitoring. So it would be an 8 to 10 week intervention, targeted intervention, progress monitoring, and then after 10 weeks, determining what the next steps might be. Is it a referral to special education? Is it continued tier 2 intervention? And we're just at the very beginning. We've had one meeting or one.
Yep.
And then that's general ed support. If a student requires special education, I think this is changing the game in special education. Special ed has always been a wait to fail model. And with dyslexia, it's changing the way we're thinking about that. We know that there are preschool markers for dyslexia. We know what to look for. We have screening, research-based screening tools at our disposal. So we start early. We don't want to wait for children to fail. And that's what the country did for the past 50 years. And the interesting thing is there's been, Orton-Gillingham approaches have been around for 50 years, but we waited too long for so many students. So this is a real exciting time for children. And we've been working in the special ed department, we've been working to identify the assessments that we need to use to identify dyslexia. There's been a myth that we can't identify or diagnose dyslexia. And schools don't diagnose, but we certainly identify disabilities and we can identify dyslexia. Currently, there are about 25 teachers who are being trained in Orton-Gillingham approach, and a number of teachers are already trained in Wilson, and additional teachers are being trained in Wilson, and Wilson is an Orton-Gillingham approach. So next, oh, I'm sorry, not next. Don't go, sorry. Sorry. The other thing I just wanted to mention was professional development with Nadine Gabb. Dr. Nadine Gabb is out of Children's Hospital, and she's done a lot of research, and she's the author of the Early Bird Screener for Dyslexia. And she had, I think there are 40 plus teachers in the professional development with Dr. Gabb, and she is talking all about language acquisition, reading acquisition, identifying dyslexia. And most of the folks in that particular professional development program are general ed teachers.
Awesome.
It's fascinating. Yeah. And she's wonderful.
And she's a professor at the Harvard School of Education.
Good, thank you.
She runs the GAD lab there.
The Gabb Lab, yes. Next is simply for your purposes, the definition that is found in the dyslexia legislation and documents from DESE. And next, district updates. These are just some of the things that we've accomplished in the first few months. We have moved the special ed files pre-K to 5 to the central office. They've been housed in the buildings, and we need to centralize them. And we've done that. And that will allow us to monitor and manage the files in a much more efficient manner. And they will be consistent in how they're managed. We have moved to electronic signatures. We haven't actually started it yet, so we'll hopefully be starting this week.
In 3 months, Debbie. That's okay.
But in the spirit of sustainability, in this day and age, it's 2021. I think that we can get away from killing so many trees, and we are laden with paperwork in special education. I think that we can try to move to electronic signatures for consents and IEPs, and I think parents will be grateful, actually, to not have.
And caseworkers and principals will be grateful, because I think people just are like, well, I'll throw that in the pile and then.
And forget about it.
Can you sign the IEP? What are you talking about? What? We'll send it again.
One of the things that we have implemented is a developmental history home assessment. A home assessment is part of, it's an optional component of an evaluation. And we have done it, but it hasn't been as formalized. And we have revamped it and updated it, and very specifically included it as part of every initial evaluation. And specifically, one of the questions on the home assessment, some parents get frightened by saying we're doing a home assessment, and that's what it's called on the form, the DESE form. So that's why I call it a developmental history, and it allows parents to give us background history on the child's medical history, on their on their disposition, on what their likes and dislikes are. But the other thing that we ask in this form is there a family history of dyslexia? Because that's one of the markers of dyslexia. It's something that we need to know about. So we're trying to hit things from all sides in that regard. And then the last thing that I want to leave you with is talking a little bit about communication and organization. I really, I think for the first time, Concord and Concord Carlisle have leadership, special ed leadership at each level. So you can move to the last slide. I think it's essential for proper administration, oversight, and development of special education here. We have the director, but we also have Janet O'Shea is the early childhood coordinator. Michelle Saravera is working across the elementary schools. Laura Brand is the administrator at the middle school. Fran Wolf is the special ed administrator at the high school, and Marielle Winterstein is the out-of-district coordinator. So we have people in place to communicate with parents, with the administration, with our teachers, both general ed and special ed. And I think that communication is key to our success. I think lack of communication creates problems. If we look at where problems develop, it's oftentimes lack of communication. So this team is our working team, our leadership team, and the team is present to work on that continuity and consistency across all levels and up through the grades in terms of process and procedure, facilitate a smooth transition from grade to grade. They will work collaboratively with one another to move children from preschool to elementary, from elementary to middle school, from middle school to high school. I know that Fran Wolf has already been to Carlisle to work on a transition from Carlisle student to our high school. They're there to support best practices among the special ed and general ed teachers, to promote inclusion, to promote appropriate supports within gen ed and special ed, to ensure compliance with the laws. That's one of their big tasks. And to communicate with and support parents. They are the go-to people at the buildings for parents. If a parent has a question or a concern, they are the go-to people. And next.
I think that was it.
And I think you can hit it one more time. That's it. And that's
Good. Awesome.
I'm sorry, Lori said 20 minutes, and I know I went way over it. I apologize.
I was
I'm
hoping it'd be
grateful.
more, so
Yes,
this is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. As was I. So thank you. This
Good.
was, I think, this is what I know I was looking forward to. I mean, everything, I just want to echo everything the court said, right?
Yes.
And
Needed
it was
this
so
and-
thoughtfully prepared. It's so cogent. It's so, it really allows us to understand the support services that there are throughout the districts.
And I just want to make it clear that this is just our first reading. We wanted to give us an infrastructure, a structure. This is incredible. And, I know we have more work to do with, as a committee, with CPAC, with the community. But this is just such a great foundation. I think that we can really just, you're very optimistic, and I like your, the centering around inclusion. I think that's just so important for the community to hear, because I think often special education families and students don't feel included. So I think to hear that right up front is really, really important. So, but I know the rest of the committee probably has questions, and I don't want to short shrift our remote participant, so maybe we'll start off with her.
Perfect. I had a couple questions. One was the language-based learning program that's at Willard. If you are a student at Alcott or Thoreau, are you able to participate in that? And are you transported there?
Yes.
Okay, so it works just like the Thoreau program does, but it's available to all students K to 5.
Yes. So all of the elementary specialized programs are available to all elementary students.
Great. And then I had another question about just initial evaluations last year, because I look at some of the numbers that seem like really much lower than expected. How many initial evaluations were done K to 5 last year? And do you expect more evaluations to come through this year now that we're able to test in a more normal fashion?
I don't have that information. I'd have to do some digging.
Okay, that's
my
totally fine. I don't expect everything tonight, and I know you're new on the scene too. So just out of curiosity, are the numbers lower because maybe there weren't as many initial referrals last year, just given the circumstances?
I'll look into that.
And then, just in terms of the numbers, those DESE numbers, are those numbers that are on signed IEPs? Like, do you feel like maybe there are some unsigned IEPs out there that aren't capturing that? Or are they, you probably pulled them from the DESE database, right?
So those numbers are based on October 1. It really is a snapshot in time. It's early. I'm happy to report the numbers in March, where I think you'll see an increase in those figures, and probably in June, where you'll see another increase in the numbers.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to clarify, we provide DESE the data that
Right.
we're reporting tonight. So it's just important to know that it's a big loop. We send it to DESE and then Debbie
It's out
grabs
of
it.
our system.
It's out of our system.
And it is based on signed, accepted, active IEPs.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is very helpful and, great overview onto really what the programming that we currently have is. So thank you.
Alexa?
Sure. One of the things, I don't know if this is quite the administration, some of the feedback that I have heard over my tenure on school committee is that it is challenging sometimes for parents on our website, maybe, to find where all of this incredible information, especially about the different programs that we offer at each sort of, building kind of level. I know we have so much information on, especially our district website. If it's there, I couldn't find it either. And I did spend some time. So again, I don't know whose purview that would quite be under, but I know that parents and families are desperate to know what we're doing, and sometimes they just don't. Even it's a goofy anecdote, but even the other day I was talking to a friend. She has a freshman. Kid's going like, some days he's great in math, some test scores are terrible. And I said, oh, well, does he go to the mark? What's the mark? So like even those guys, again, freshman, oldest kid, October, she doesn't know yet, but even some of those kinds of resources, trying to, just make them easy and accessible to find, I think would be excellent. And then similarly too, once your kid is identified for some kind of intervention, whether it's minimal or significant, sort of like having an understanding of what that means and sort of what the flow and the process is. Okay, my kid's identified, then what happens? Who do I talk to? How long are they in that intervention? When do I circle back? What's the appropriate time to circle back? Who am I circling back with? All of those kinds of things, I think would be so fantastic for parents to see, because as you know, you've just talked about it, there are great things happening here. And I just want to make sure that everybody can see that, find it, and capitalize on it in the district. I think that's really important. You answered my neurological question. You answered my October data question. You answered Tracy asked that. For now, I think that's great. I got to go through my poorly written notes, but I'm so grateful. You know I'm grateful because I've met with you before, so thank you.
And you've given me some ideas
Yeah,
to
okay.
work on in terms, I do believe the communication is key and we can always do a better job. And we sometimes assume that parents know what the next step is because we've done this, we do this like it's in our sleep. And we assume everybody else knows that. And we have to be careful. And we always talk about putting ourselves in the other's shoes and making sure. And sometimes we forget to do that. So that's one of the things we talk about is that in our leadership meeting, is put yourself in the parent's shoes. Put yourself in the parent's shoes. Do they know? Do they understand? And trying to always remember that. So
Actually,
thank you for bringing that up again because we can do a better job talking about next steps. And
I have one other question. We had talked before, you had told me before that to create a program, you need these little like micro cohorts, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. So what happens? So like in these really, in our more complicated programs, right? What happens, whether it's the autism program at Thoreau or the launch program here at Ripley, when, by virtue of just who's here, you lose that micro cohort, but you still have, a child, a few kids, or even if, let's say in those intensive programs, you've got, if you have like a little bit of diversity even within that micro cohort, like, does it get so complicated that you can't specialize? I don't know. This is so complicated. I'm not.
I think she said earlier, we just got to get creative.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. I mean, having been part of sort of a situation like that, it changes weekly, yearly, monthly, people make strides, people need more assistance. I think it's an art, actually. There's a lot of science that you depend on, but to me, it is definitely an art form, and it's the special education, like you just told us everything.
Yeah, so is that ability to be nimble important at the leadership level because they're identifying it and all of that? Is that where we get?
yeah, and I think, so one of my slides mentioned thinking outside the box, but the other piece of this is planning, looking ahead. We know who we have, we know who's moving up. I mentioned planning for middle school. We have children that are in 3rd grade that we know we need to start planning now for middle school. There's a cohort and we need to plan for them. We also need to be thinking about what's it going to look like in high school. So we need to have the foresight and the vision and be thinking about it now, not wait until the year is upon us. For the children's sake, for the parents' sake, and for the district. So it's that forward thinking and that planning. And the thing, I would say that in looking at our numbers and our programs, I'm not worried about losing the cohort at this point. We have, if you build it, they will come. We have, from what I hear, lots of folks moving into the district, I think, and again, not because of special ed, but because of the district and the reputation and the quality of education, and special ed is just an extension of that.
Thanks.
I had some questions. Again, thank you for a wonderful presentation, very much in depth, for reassuring us that special education is the extension of general education, the richness of the programming. my question circles back, and I really appreciate the amount of communication and the richness of communication that is provided in this slides. And I'm hoping that, to Alexa's point, that it will find its way to a website. As a quick reminder, we all sort of function in a now. I need this now, so I'm paying attention, because we're just drowning in information. So people might miss, even if they have children on IEPs, they might miss what they may need in near future or tomorrow. So having that living in a space where it can be accessible and a way, who is the point person, understanding where to go for the resources. CPAC is a wonderful resource for parents with children that with special education needs, but that would be a beautiful addition, and you've gathered so much information for us about where the education is going. So to Alexa's point, that would be very helpful. I just wanted to add that the students at the high school might not necessarily know. I know there is a big push at the high school for students to understand how, or that their tutors, where to access, what MARC is, what CERC is, whether they are on IEPs or whether they are accessing some tier supports. So I've heard that they are putting some information even through Instagram, which is exciting. So my question is, you have mentioned the academic support center at the high school, and I just wanted to know if that, because as a parent, I'm not necessarily in the school to understand who is going in and going out of it. Is the academic center accessible to all students, not just the students with the IEPs, as a physical space? And the reason why I ask is because that builds the sense of inclusion for students, where you remove some of the stigma if everyone is accessing it, or is it really for housing the pathways and bridge those programs? How does that situation look?
So the academic support center or program or class at the high school is for students with mild to moderate disabilities. It would be for students who, I think they call it RAP, or the math tutoring, or LEAP services at the high school. In LEAP is for executive functioning. So it's for, they might receive support 2 to 3 times a week, in any combination thereof. Actually, they could get lots of different supports. And I think there's a literacy block as well. I think that's the RAP program. But those services are for students on IEPs only. It's illegal for us to be providing services to students who are not on IEPs. And if we were to do that, it would take away from the direct and explicit instruction we are required to provide students on IEPs. The numbers would be too great, and it would defeat the purpose of trying to provide those services.
So the MARC and the CERC are located in a different location, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why I asked, because as you were going through the presentation, I've seen that at a lot of universities and colleges, to lower the stigma, they have specialty programs for disabled children, and they bring the tutors for other academic areas that are not necessarily part of the program, just to stigmatize, to increase the inclusion. But again, just additional question. And then
if I may just respond briefly, I do believe that there are other general ed programs and supports at the high school. So there are students that are going all over the place for extra support. So I would hope that nobody is stigmatized. There are no signs that say this is a special ed room and this is a general ed room. Kids are going everywhere for support. And nobody should be, again, I would hope that nobody's stigmatized by getting extra support. There's ELL supports, there's general ed supports, there's, as I mentioned earlier, they're working on tiered supports for struggling readers, for struggling learners, for all sorts of students who may encounter difficulties for general ed and special ed. So that's, and I don't know enough about the general ed supports really to respond. That's what I think I know.
Yeah, I mean, I can mention the general ed supports. The MARC and the CIRC are general ed. They're for anyone can access them in math or in reading and writing. And then there's specific programs to METCO, achievement strategies. There's specific programs for English language learners and those who have been exited from the programs. And that's all considered general education. They can be accessed by students who are on IEPs as well.
Okay, and that really answers the
Yeah.
the question, because it's very inclusive. You have mentioned that there's a compensatory services with the students. So just quickly, I don't know if that has been asked by parents, but with the students that their teacher was in remote during the pandemic, would they be also looked to include, or is it we just gonna go by screeners and by the surveys, parent surveys for the compensatory services?
The compensatory services are students who were not able to access their education at all.
At all, okay.
Because of the nature of their disability, because of technology issues. If they were accessing it via Zoom, they were still accessing it. So they wouldn't necessarily be eligible for compensatory services. There's some students, because of the nature of their disability, and they were required to do remote learning, they were not able to do it. So those students are the ones that we might be more concerned about compensatory services.
Thank you.
But we're looking at every student, individual consideration for each and every student.
Okay, that's a great clarification. Thank you. And then I really appreciate the work that you are doing with all the PD work for our teachers, bringing quality PD work and working with Nadine Gap. You have mentioned that 40 teachers signed on in general education. Do you know what portion is it from high school? I
don't.
We're pretty, we're pretty evenly divided, proportional to the number of staff. So, we have more staff at the 3 elementary schools if you add them all together. So it's probably the highest proportion, and then it goes through the other 2 schools. All right.
And a follow-up question to that, is there, with seeing that general education teachers are so excited about really learning more about dyslexia, are you seeing sort of like this cross-pollination, right, from special education to general education of this kind of expertise when it comes to literacy? Since students should be practicing their literacy skills throughout the day, right? So it's really exciting to see that general education teachers are really interested in this. And do you see that, there is this kind of like co-teaching working relationship developing between the 2 groups, the specialized group of our special educators talking to the general education teachers, how to provide, how to approach their brain better?
I do. And again, from the limited time that I've been here, what I know is that the teachers are meeting as teams. It's grade level teams. Special educators are involved with those teams. They're talking about students and their strengths. They're looking at data. They're they have teacher assistance teams that look at students who might be struggling, and they tap the expertise of special educators. The general ed teachers also have expertise, so they are working collaboratively. And again, it's the collaboration, the teamwork, and tapping each other's strengths. And as they grow together with their knowledge and expertise, they're just feeding off of one another. I think the excitement and the Nadine Gab professional development was just, it was, I can't think of the right word, but it was extraordinary. People were so excited and talking about it the following day because she brought such a high level of expertise and imparted such knowledge. It put it all together for teachers, things that they've been seeing in their children for years probably, and made sense of it for them and gave them information that they could walk away with and use the next day. It was remarkable. And they know that the dyslexia guidelines are upon us, and they're ready and willing and wanting to learn. Our teachers are lifelong learners, and they want to learn. And this is something that's really exciting for them. So yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, this is great. It's really great to hear about this. And then last question.
We're getting over.
Okay, yeah, special education, however, is, is
I know,
is
but
such a
that's-
big topic.
We have two other
yeah.
members coming in.
So the last question is there a way to bring some of this, the great things that are happening in Concord, bring it back to sort of collaborate with the Carlisle teachers, just so we are sending kids that are ready and we understand what each side is doing?
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry. So the question is if there's a way that we can link up with our Carlisle teachers, just so we, as we are feeding children into high school, we can understand what Concord is doing in terms of professional training, all the great stuff that is happening here on this site.
So
Yeah,
what
we
would be
meet
the
with
source?
them regularly, and we are happy to share everything that we do. That it's generally how we meet with Matt Maher, who's the principal of the middle school. We meet with elementary principals, and for any curricular updates that we have. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
They're in my job alike group, so I meet with them
Okay,
every
it
month.
would be, yeah.
And I do meet, I've met with Lori Bruce, the special ed director there, and I've reached out to her, and she's in my job alike group, so we shared some information.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Deb. This is a fantastic resource that going forward, as we continue our conversations about special ed, that this will be a great resource for people to look at, to refer back to. And we really appreciate all the work you put into to the materials in preparation for this, and more so for the story that you were able to tell tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's see.
Vision. Okay, we're on to Envision.
Yes.
Yes. Envision. Envision Concord.
I can jump in if you'd like. Erin's pulling up the portion of Envision Concord that pertained to us that the select board has asked us to bring updates to them on Monday night. So this is the template they provided, and I drafted it so we could take a look at it tonight before we sent it to them. You'll see it was a limited, the Envision Concord's an enormous document. Our piece of that was very, very limited comparatively. So you can see we were asked to give feedback on, and what was a little tricky, the actual recommendation isn't on the template, it's in the big document. So we were asked essentially to give feedback on transportation, outdoor space, facilities with a probable focus on the middle school. And I think that's really the three buckets, and fiscal as well in terms of the new middle school. So I won't read this to you. I think certain things were on hold. We were given categories to choose from. The pandemic certainly slowed down some of the transportation related ones, although biking took off, other things did not happen. And then just noting where we are with the middle school project and highlighting that for them. So
It will be an interesting meeting because all stakeholders, this isn't just us reporting our
Correct.
progress. So, and the Concord long-range plan and Vision Concord was completed 2 years ago, maybe every pre-COVID.
pandemic, for sure.
So,
yeah.
I think this is just another thing they feel like they're trying to catch up on and sort of try to see what follow through there's been on pages and pages and pages of action items. So this will be an interesting meeting on Monday. So I think does anybody have any questions about this?
Is there a place in there ask of us for us to reference electric buses?
Not per se.
I find that odd, given their
The
perspective.
thing is, if I wanted to go through the thing, it's sort of like all departments, sustainability, all departments.
Yeah.
And obviously, this would be a rather large report to report on the Concord Public Schools and sustainability. So I think there were just these targeted things. We'll see how the meeting goes. I think there would probably be follow-up. So if we misunderstood or misinterpreted the assignment, honestly, the chair of the select board was out of town and I didn't have time to check in with her. So we'll see how this meeting goes.
Yeah.
That was the
And-
only one that came to mind as odd that there wasn't a bucket to put
Yeah.
that in.
We do have you've seen it, that the town has a APP for electrifying the fleet.
Right.
They do understand that it's challenging to electrify our whole fleet overnight. So, but they still assumed that we adopted this policy, which I can't really recall that we did or did
We
not.
did not, no, yeah.
So, but there'll probably be questions and, follow up on this meeting, I'm pretty sure. So, but yeah, it's a good observation though.
Who represents us Monday?
I'm going to have to talk to you because I'm going to be flying.
Okay.
So,
And Alexa and I are double booked with CPAC. We tried to stagger the
noticed
times
that,
a little
yeah.
bit, but yeah, we got to split up a bit.
We'll get synced up then, okay.
We'll find our fifth member.
Tracy, we might.
I
Need
think I'm
you.
available on Monday if you need me.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
it'll be just a 3 or 4 hour meeting, so.
Looking forward to it.
Exactly. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hunter. Let's see where it,
You're on to variance report, Jared.
Great. So in your packets are the variance reports by 1,000 and the 100. This is the first one presented this year. We are in balance. Some things, right now, we're doing a little bit of a bottom line budgeting just because there are so many grants the monies are coming in, ESSER funds, as well as circuit breaker, IDEA. But we seem to be in really good shape right now, tracking well. Any questions?
no. I'd like to hear we're tracking well.
Well, this is perhaps silly. I don't think it's consequential, but I was curious why debt retirement on the high school wasn't such a known that it was already encumbered.
Yeah, we just didn't encumber it yet.
That's, okay,
Yeah.
just what I figured,
Yeah.
yeah. Just
It is a known.
It's not very important
Right.
that it be encumbered, but it is clearly a known,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, thank you for this. I think we're getting familiar with the 1,000 and the 100 level such that it gets easier and easier over time, as it does for your crew, I imagine. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Could I ask if we could take the action items out of order? Because
Sure.
we've had folks listening on for a while, which was appropriate because Debbie was going. So I just thought we should move up the tennis and Ripley donations.
I move that we take item X up at the present time, following the variance reports.
Sounds good? And you get a
Second?
Second,
Roll call.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Mustafi for region.
rainy eye for both?
Wilson for region.
Very good.
Okay.
So actually, if we could start with Ripley, if you don't mind that nuance, because Phil Gibson's been waiting for quite
Sure.
a while, and I need to have Aaron come back on, so that would work perfectly.
All right.
Phil, are you able to describe a bit of what you're hoping for tonight in terms of the lighting project here at Ripley?
I am.
Thanks
and
for waiting.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to join you all tonight. My name is Phil Gibson, live in Carlisle, and I'm the president of Concord Carlisle Youth Baseball and Softball. So we're 500 plus girls and boys strong from pre-K right through 10th grade. And what we're proposing to the district would be to donate and construct lights on the existing baseball field at Ripley. Very grateful to Dr. Hunter, her whole team, and for the town of Concord. There's been great cooperation, collaboration. This is a discussion that's been sort of, ongoing for several months and even years. A vision we've had for a long time to sort of complete the Ripley field, which hopefully folks have seen. Quick history, Ripley was constructed in 2010 as part of the CC Fields project, which was a public-private partnership that constructed the upper turf white fields at CCHS. As part of that, it was a fundraising donation to the district. We also constructed the Little League field at Ripley, and it's been heavily used for the last 11 years by really all of our kids that are in the pre-K through 6th grade age levels, roughly 65 kids per grade in a given year. And it's sort of evolved into really the premier field in Eastern Mass. We hosted a New England or a Massachusetts state tournament this past summer, and towns from as far away as Plymouth, Milton, Brockton came in, and to a person, the folks were saying, wow, this is the nicest field we play on. How do you guys do this? And really a testament to Eric Shaw, Aaron McCloso, and the town folks who work really hard to keep up the field. And so we see the lights as kind of being the final piece of this to expand playability, usability, and just give more kids more opportunities to enjoy the great sport of baseball, learn the lessons it teaches. And in addition, there are batting cages and bullpen mounds that we use for practices and clinics. So it's really sort of a multifunctional, heavily used asset that we just want to expand. We want more kids to be able to use it. So hopefully you saw in your packet kind of the details, but kind of in short, what we're proposing would be next spring to come in and contract with Musco, who's sort of the industry standard in sports lighting, to put up it would be likely 5 poles that would then on them hung LED lights that are very highly efficient in terms of their energy usage, highly efficient in terms of sort of light spillage. Everything's very kind of focused on the field. And we would, be roughly probably a 3 or 4 week process to get the poles in and get everything hooked up and the fixtures in. Total cost would be about $150,000. CCYBS will fund that in full through a combination of money that we have in our bank account now, plus a fundraising campaign that we will propose to do among our families, and work with the town, between now and then to get the necessary permits and approvals. Of course, we'll talk to the neighbors and any abutters and share any, address any concerns they may have. And, that's kind of where we are. We're excited about it. Sort of interesting point, folks are obviously familiar with the 3 lit fields at CCHS that, heavily service soccer and lacrosse and football and field hockey and the other field sports, but there's actually no lit baseball or softball fields in the entire town of Concord. And if you go to all our abutting towns, Sudbury, Acton, Bedford, and beyond, all of those towns would have multiple lit baseball and softball fields. We just, for whatever reason, have none, and we see this as hopefully a really exciting opportunity to expand the usage for all our younger kids. So.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all that work. Yeah.
And we've
Phil-
talked a lot, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Phil, you anticipated my question about the neighbors. I was going to ask if there's anything you and I should be doing. If people were to put an expressed question to us, what's the new schedule during the spring and summer and fall season?
Can I intervene? Because I feel very strongly, we're just accepting the gift. And I believe CCYBS needs to have some kind of agreement with the town, the rec commission, because I don't think it's going to be through us,
That's what I was about to say.
right? I mean,
No, I understand that. I
Okay.
understand that.
So I just want to be sure that we direct any abutters who are getting this first news
Fair
to the
enough, yeah.
town and to work with Mr. Gibson and CCYBS. I'm probably saying the acronym incorrectly, apologize.
Enough.
So,
I guess it would be answered in that arena, Phil, that you'd outline what it might mean for expanded usage, just so people know.
because I do believe that you're going to need to have some kind of, we'll stop the lights at 9 or something like that, agreement with the town, so that, because we do have those kinds of agreements in place at the region
Right.
on noise and lighting, not to exceed, so-and-so, and I just think that helps everybody know what the rules and regulations are. You could see, but a special permit for a tournament or something, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
way out of my league.
Yep, and certainly understand and appreciate the that sort of line of questioning, and obviously with Heritage being the direct abutter and with lights and music and heavy activity throughout the summer, there's sort of, I think, an existing precedent, and we would work with all of the abutters on those types of questions.
Thank you.
That would just, I want to be sure that we're accepting the gift, and then you're going to work with the town. If you have to get permits, you're going to work with the Concord Rec, scheduling, I don't know, all these ins and outs. But, I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be regional or,
We spoke to the town directly. They are 100% committed to full oversight of the project and all of the related activities.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
We were very clear.
Phil, I know there's a lot of people to thank, so
Yes.
thank you for starters.
Yes, thank you, and I'm sure you have a board, and thank everybody who's done the hard work to fundraise for all of this. I really appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions, or?
Thank you.
Yes.
Big,
No,
big thank you.
thank you for your
Thank
work.
you. Our
on
pleasure,
the-
and appreciate all of you as well. Thank you.
I hope you're online by 2022. It sounds so close.
All right. Is there a
the hope.
motion
There is a motion.
to accept the gift?
It's, I'll read it and then somebody can move it, that the Concord Carlisle School Committee, Concord Carlisle School Committee votes to accept a gift of lights on the Ripley baseball field as outlined in the memo from Phil Gibson, CCYBS President, to Dr. Hunter, dated November 5th, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Anderson.
Discussion?
Any more?
Nope. Okay, roll call vote.
Is this just for Concord?
No.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Stuffy for region.
Rainey, aye for both.
And Wilson for region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being patient with us.
Yes,
tonight.
but it was a good
Thanks all.
discussion.
Appreciate it.
So Aaron Jonkus is on, if we could maybe go to the tennis donation.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi, Aaron.
So Aaron, I'll cue it up and then you can take it from there. Aaron's been connected with the very enthusiastic fundraisers of the tennis pickleball tournament. So they exceeded, I think, their own expectations even. So they've proposed using a portion of those proceeds for a shed and benches. And Aaron can talk on what their hope is for the remaining proceeds and then some additional fundraising And we've got some information on that scoreboard goal that they have too. So Aaron, do you want to talk any more on those items?
Sure. Yes, thank you. So basically the impetus for this was to improve the facilities at the high school for tennis in a couple of different areas. The proposal for a storage shed is to provide obviously some storage for both the boys and girls teams and the tennis club at the tennis courts. They currently use basically a Rubbermaid plastic container that seems to break fairly frequently and that we're often replacing. The footprint for the shed is about 12 by 12 with a 10 by 10 shed that would fit well aesthetically, I think, comparatively speaking with the other sheds that are located at the baseball and softball fields, and would provide storage for the tennis program for a variety of items, balls, ball hoppers, down the road potentially a ball machine that could be used in the fall and the spring for both of our teams and the tennis club, which typically fills up with anywhere from 24 to 30 kids per week that participate. And then the second piece is to add 2 benches. I know in the drawing that you have on the agenda, which I took some grief for based on its rudimentary skills. There are 4 benches proposed, and in consultation with the coaches and kids, we've scaled that back to 2, which would be on the closer side towards the parking lot, rather than on the far side closest to Memorial Field. Those are 2 covered benches. So if you've ever been down to a tennis match, oftentimes, kids from both teams are gathered in that area watching the matches. Often days, the sun can be beating down, and there's not really any place for kids who are coming off the court to get out of the sun and get some shade, or for folks who come to watch. Sometimes this includes grandparents to just have a place to be away from the sun and to sit comfortably. So the 2 benches, I think, would be a nice addition, would benefit those groups that I mentioned, and in addition, community usage, as we do have a number of people who use the high school courts frequently during the spring, summer, and fall. And then we anticipate that, so right now the total monies raised is $41,104. And based on some estimates that we've received, we anticipate that the installation of the shed, including the purchase of the shed and the ground prep and so forth, would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,500 to $9,000. And that the installation and purchase of the benches would be $7,000, is probably on the high side, which leaves us with about $25,000, give or take, remaining in that fundraising pool. And we've been working with I've worked with a vendor who's done installation at the college level for tennis scoreboards and other scoreboards. And he's come and met with us at the site and done a tour and talked to installation folks and given us a proposal for a scoreboard. Thank you, Dr. Hunter. This would allow us really to have a state-of-the-art facility that would be on par with facilities that host the state tennis championships each year. St. John's Shrewsbury is a good example. They've got a comparable scoreboard like this. And we would be able to use it for our matches in the spring for our boys and girls teams, and to host any MIAA tournaments, either as the host school and or as a neutral site, which is a great opportunity to just bring exposure to our program and campus and so forth. So the board is coming in somewhere in the neighborhood of $16,000, and the installation would be $15,000 to $18,000 based on, of course, the cost of materials and some variables that we wouldn't be able to nail down until we got the green light to move ahead with the project. But I think the company that we're working with is very reputable. They did some installation over at Bentley in Waltham, and I went over to take a look at their installation there. The site that we're proposing, if we're able to move forward, would not really inhibit any sight lines of the courts. Many of you have been to the high school and watched tennis from the hill, sort of diagonally across from the Beatty Center. The scoreboard would be built into the hill there to the side so that you could still sit at the top of the hill and see all 6 courts and see across.
Could I just interrupt, because this was not on our radar, so I think we'll have to defer approving this tonight.
Right, so one just technical piece and the reason Aaron brought the scoreboard piece is because the 41,000 needs to be accepted even if you're not approving all of its use yet. They don't have the full money for the scoreboard anyhow.
That wasn't clear to us either.
I'm sorry?
That wasn't clear. That is not in this motion.
No, that's why I'm clarifying now, so you're clear on this. So they've raised 41,000. They're looking for approval to accept the donation of the benches and the shed. There's a nuance here of that we're the house of the money until an approved gift is proposed. They obviously are hoping you're going to approve a scoreboard at some point. It doesn't have to be tonight. Aaron happened to get that in time. So the ask is tonight to approve the benches and the shed. We can talk on the remaining money. Are you okay housing that money without the approval of the expenditures?
You can, yep.
Okay, so we wanted to be sure we were clear.
Why do we need to accept the whole gift? I'm sorry. If they're a 501c3, they should just be able to hold on to the balance, right?
Aaron, are they able to hold on to the balance?
There's not, there was not a 501c3 that was set up. When the money was raised, we partnered with the business office to create an account, in part because there was not a separate entity that was established.
Can I just ask a question? Can we just accept the 41,000 and not say what it's exactly for until everything kind of gets worked out and then it just gets held at Ripley?
That's what we're asking, right?
We're trying to figure out where we are, right?
So I'm a little confused.
All right, so let me just step you back. The ask is to approve what they're hoping to do right now, which is the benches and the shed, which is why you have the most information on that. That will not use up their entire $41,000. We technically wanted to be sure you were clear that there's a balance already in existence that the district has in a student in a revolving account. So the remainder of that, Aaron, we thought it would be helpful to at least let you know that the wish down the road is for the scoreboard. They don't have enough funds for that. I wanted to be sure that if that wasn't where you wanted them to go, that we gave them that direction before they went off to fundraise for the remaining difference of the scoreboard.
So does that mean the 41,000 is now in a student activity account?
Be in a gift account, yeah.
It's currently in that account. It's
Currently in that account.
Regardless of our vote, it's already, they're just letting us know that that's where the money is.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that wasn't clear from,
Yes.
we thought another entity.
I mean, we're very thankful. I was just,
We're just making sure we know where.
No, that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because this has
Okay.
been floating around us for a little while now.
I went a
they-
little too fast, too far, forgive me.
So, but if we, but we are green lighting the scoreboard if we accept the gift because they think they're going to go fundraise for the remainder?
No, I think you can just green light the shed and the bench.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful to Aaron if you gave him some direction on the scoreboard, because if you aren't ready for them to fundraise for that, because you're not sure you want to do it, we should probably communicate that.
Casually.
Well, I'm not sure I know what I think because I didn't know about it 5 minutes
And that's
ago.
okay.
I-
That's
I-
okay.
I think the best we can do, and I think this would protect you as well, Aaron, is to note that the $41,000 has been received, and it's in school department custody right now, and it's in a gift account, and it's earmarked for tennis. And we could approve the use of part of those funds for the shed and the 2 benches as you
Yep.
describe.
Right.
And you bring back to us more information about the scoreboard, so we could give you more assurance that that approval would be forthcoming.
That sounds reasonable. Could I,
Very.
And if,
just briefly, and you may not have all the answers now, but well, maybe I'll ask, we can address that later. I was going to just seek out some more information about what would be helpful for the scoreboard, but let me, Court, I think your suggestion is a good one regarding the shed and the benches. And I think that a more detailed proposal for the scoreboard can be prepared and presented, and we can address that as a separate item. Does that sound like a good approach?
Yep.
Yes, and I don't think we're asking for a whole lot more than you've already given us. Just prepare it for us in the typical way that a school committee would want to see it. That's all.
Sure, I understand.
And then just what you would think the maintenance would be on the scoreboard?
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
that, I saw
I'll
the
include
maintenance on the scoreboards, and I'm like, oh, they need to be maintained.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So, let's see here.
okay, so is there a
We didn't think it was right to not mention the scoreboard, and he happened to get the document from the vendor this morning. So thought it was helpful to share it.
Okay, so the motion is that the Concord Carlisle School Committee votes to accept a gift of a storage shed and team bench seating at CCHS tennis courts as outlined in the attached memo from Aaron Shonkus.
there a second?
Second.
Oh, no, is there a first?
I can move, I think.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
Okay, discussion? No, we'll
Yeah, I just want to
Yes.
express our thanks to the people who are trying to support this program in this way.
Yes, absolutely.
I would just commend Bill and Robin Grace, who really spearheaded the idea for the pickleball tournament, and have done a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of working with various number of families and community members who not only participated in the tournament, which was great fun, and many of our students volunteered their time, played as well, but also were helpful with organizing. But we had a wonderful show of support overall. So I can envision the pickleball tournament being a fun annual event that occurs that, it's a growing sport and really was, like I said, a lot of fun for many people in the community.
Great. Thank you for that.
thank you. Okay.
Right.
Roll call.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye.
Morano, I for both.
Mustafi, I for region.
Rainey, aye for both?
Wilson for region, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And,
Okay,
let's see, and then the photography.
now we should do the photography donation while we're in
absolutely.
action items.
Yes,
Okay, is there a motion to accept the photography donation?
just try to get to it.
A lot of
Want to read it?
donations, a lot of gifts.
I move that the Concord Carlisle School Committee vote to accept a gift donation of camera and darkroom equipment valued at $15,000 to the CCHS Art Department from the family of Harvey Klein, MD, grandfather of Julia Brannigan, class of 19, and Molly Brannigan, class of 23, with gift acknowledgement to Phyllis Klein.
Second.
Discussion?
Wonderful.
Again, with great
Yeah.
thanks.
Such a
Yes.
touching,
Yes. Wonderful story.
Yeah, I appreciate Greg took the time to tell me more of the story so I could invite them.
Awesome.
Wonderful. All right.
okay.
Roll call.
Anderson, I.
Booth, aye.
Morano, I.
Mustafi, I for region.
Rainey, aye for both, or Rainey, aye for region?
Wilson for region. Okay, now we
Where are we?
Back
can
to 100.
return to policy.
Yes, I think so.
First readings.
So this is a first read, and We have met with our MASC rep, Dorothy Presser, who's ever helpful. Others can help me walk through these. You've seen them. The student activity accounts are in fact one account with many sub-accounts within it. We don't operate exactly as some other districts do, with separate accounts and principals writing checks on behalf of those separate accounts. Instead, principals authorize, and then it comes down here for issuance of a check. Let me see. We met with Ian Rames as well. He's the one who's actually got his hands on the mechanics of all of this and the management of it. And we've got confidence that's being managed very nicely. There is one thing that we'll want to revisit, perhaps with Jared, and that is the language that says we need to look annually at maximum thresholds for these accounts or sub-accounts, but we don't need to do that necessarily tonight, but I think you need to have us ready for that when we bring this up for a vote, so you know there will be another school committee deliberation and decision specifically on maximum amounts in accounts. So with that, any questions on that one?
Nope.
We then have admission of exchange students. This is our policy. MASC doesn't have one to propose.
Okay.
So we'd be adopting this and putting our own date of adoption on it with, I think, no references.
And no change, or just
And no change. correct.
re-adopt it.
File JIH, searches and interrogations. Let me see. For this one, we bring forward to you the MASC version of the policy. This one is so fraught with legal implications that we think it unwise to try to work up our own. Athletic concussion, we want to put a new approval date on it, mirroring the MASC policy, and this is JJ IFF. And as to the companion policy, athletic concussion regulations, this one, we're of a mind we might or might not keep it within policy. It might even go elsewhere to handbook, premature to say at this time. Rather, what we want is head nurse, athletic trainer, and the athletic director to weigh in on this policy and give us their perspective and their advice. The next one is I don't think it's on our agenda tonight. Let me see if I can call that up.
Student conduct.
Want to be removed, or the buses?
The buses, okay, so.
Two.
ICC.
Yeah. We did discuss sustainable fleet policy, but that didn't arrive on our list for tonight. We now have JJCC, student conduct on school buses, has a cross-reference for another policy. We debated potential equity issues here, our efforts to enforce regulations administered evenly, and we're confident they are, but we're watchful because we have buses that travel a few feet and buses that travel many miles. With very different student experiences. So what we propose to you is that the JICC student conduct be reapproved with the MASC reference, and that we pull the companion policy JICC regulation, or JICCR, out of the policy and put it into student handbooks, making it much more accessible to students and parents.
Yes.
So we'll entertain any questions you have.
Thank you to the policy sub.
Court, I just had one question. When you just referenced that Jared provided a threshold, is there background on that I missed?
Only when we go into our online policy itself and read it with care. And then it does indeed reference, let me see, I'm going to pull up the proposed, and it references number 5, the school committee shall annually, prior to the start of each school year, vote to establish or change the maximum balance that may be on deposit in each student activity checking account.
And that's in the law. That's not us.
Yeah. So what we'll do, a little bit in arrears, but not enough to alarm us. We're going to look at the sub accounts because I don't think we'll put just one huge threshold on the whole bundle.
No, it's by principal.
It's
by
by
site.
it's by account. And
Mostly middle school and
we
high
can
school.
do that at a future date.
Right,
But
the
that-
MAS, oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Does that actually go into the policy, or is this just discussion that we have?
A lot of the policies in other districts do put it in there, but it doesn't have to be. But where else the only place is where do we put it? So that we remember what we said.
Right, but it's not a requirement. I just don't recall that coming up when we met with Dorothy. That's why I was just asking.
Interesting.
You're correct. We didn't discuss it with her.
Okay.
And I think that was probably because of our assumption that this was legally prescribed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Yep.
And again, our reference here is MASC July 2018 and MGL 7147.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that?
Nope.
No? All right.
That's just the first read.
Yep, thank you, Policy Committee.
Yes.
Thank you for taking on also the facilities fees.
Yes. Many, many thanks.
And I think with that, we can adjourn the.
We didn't forget anything, did we?
No, I don't.
Jumping
I know, I
around.
keep looking because we jumped, but.
I think
I
we have
don't think so.
additional public
Additional
comment.
public comment, but.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, yep. So if there's any member of the public with us remotely and you'd like to raise your hand using the raise hand feature on Zoom, Tracy will welcome you to the stage.
And I do not see any raised hands.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Move to adjourn the regional meeting.
Second.
Second.
I think we have to roll call.
Anderson, I.
Booth, aye.
Morano, I.
Mustafi, aye.
Rainey, aye.
Wilson, aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
And now, does anybody need a break?
I could use.
Yeah.
Okay.
please.
So.
Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break, putting us at 10:15. No, just 9:20. It's or so.
To run home and get on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We are back in session, the Concord School Committee. So we will begin with a big slew of acronyms and projects. So let's begin with any liaison reports from Concord Middle School Building Committee, subcommittees, any committees.
Well, I was in and out on the Friday's meeting, unfortunately. So I'll leave that to Court. I will say we did put out an excessive amount of communication this morning because our outreach to the community is in really full swing. We're averaging about 3 or 4 opportunities a week to engage with the building committee, both with specific groups that invite us and then with opportunities that are more, general to anyone. I suppose I won't go through them because they are so many, and we have done extensive communication with really the town in general in every which way we can. So It's great to see. We've got a lot of opportunity out there from now through December 1st. We are in the process of working out our December schedule, which will be as robust, frankly. It just hasn't been nailed down quite yet. So you can go to the building projects website, which is Concord Middle School Building Project.org, on our social media channels. Lori, Dr. Hunter puts out quite a bit of communication on all of our upcoming events. So it's out there.
Great. Do you want to try to
I'll try to
summarize?
I'll try to
Good luck.
bridge between last Friday's middle school building committee, and I'm sure Lori and others can help, to yesterday's select board meeting. Then we've got tomorrow's sustainability meeting, and then we have another meeting, quite a critical one, on Friday coming, where we will look at value engineering, and we will look at a language for the warrant article, i.e. the budget ceiling that we want to bring before the town meeting on January 20. Last Friday, the estimates came in. The architectural team, SMMA, had their professional estimator. The OPM Hill had their professional estimator. The two firms brought in numbers very, very close, which is comforting that they were close. Hill simply split the difference and brought us the figures in the middle, such that the cost estimate now is just shy of 103 million. And then we quickly, without sticking around to discuss that, we went right into looking at the SMMA value engineering list, or list of things to consider should we want to make any changes, which is not to say that they were recommending any of them. Rather, they were putting them forward as their first look at a list for the committee. Then I was in and out of last night's meeting, but correct me if I'm wrong, the select board determined that they want to hold to the $100 million figure as a maximum, number one. Number two, that they have concerns around the escalation numbers to protect us for future escalation, such that they do expect the committee to go back to value engineering and have an earnest conversation about that. And similarly, I think really recognizing their desire to A, support the project, and B, support the town's interests in holding the line at a manageable number, in spite of a very volatile construction industry right now. They brought their number to $104 million as the number for the warrant article, which I fully expect the building committee will be quite supportive of.
Yep.
That, I think, is the essence of it. Who else was at these meetings? Lori certainly was. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's a nice summary of a lot of information.
It is. It's a lot. And there were a few significant ads in the VM list, right? In terms of, wasn't there $1 million recommendation to add for ventilation, or?
So what I have seen is something, I don't have the number with me, but a number that is not insignificant for enhanced ventilation through the building and enhanced distribution in the auditorium.
Yeah. I just said they weren't all,
Yes, so they weren't all potential cuts. There
Right.
was one add, which is one that the Sustainability, I think, Committee will take up tomorrow.
I would think so.
Good point, thank you.
Oh, no problem. So that's, let me just go through. So that's sort of summarizing where we are with the building project, value engineering and project cost estimates, and then we had a sort of a separate item on ESSER. So I did speak with Chris Reynolds and Terry Ackerman, and while the Select Board and the FinCom, I don't think has actually taken a formal vote, or maybe they did on the FinCom, I don't think they have at the Select Board. But she said the consensus of both, I heard the consensus of both committees was that they would like to look at using ESSER for the middle school project.
Well, I think they heard this committee and administration talk about it,
ESSER and ARPA, you know,
Yes.
but we're ESSER and they're ARPA.
and they picked up on that, yes.
Well, I guess if I can just interject on ESSER, I really feel strongly that ESSER funds should be going directly to kids and for, educational needs. And I'll just, put that
Yep.
as my statement loud and strong.
Yep.
I'm not in support of it going towards the middle school building project.
Mhm. But what if we have, I think we need to have another discussion about ESSER, and I didn't mean to have that discussion here because it wasn't on our agenda. I think my job was to go off and talk about whether those other, to sort of poll the other groups and see where they are. So. it
Yeah,
was-
I
it was
just wasn't
my-
clear if this was coming up as discussion tonight or what it meant when it was on the agenda. Sorry about that.
No, because we should definitely have a much more full-throated discussion of what the recommendations are, what our options are, and what we as the committee want to vote to do with that ESSER money.
I thought, I apologize, I thought it was on the agenda too.
No, because we would have had a linked item with the proposal, blah, blah, et cetera, right? So that'll happen probably when we discuss our budget. No, I thought the exercise was to go off and see if it was possible.
It is possible. It's allowable under our ESSER direction.
And the town certainly has
Sure with that.
significantly larger amount of money than we do. So that, I think, is sort of more of the focus. It's no intention to take all of our ESSER money and to throw it at the middle school. That
Yeah,
would
we
be
can
totally
that.
inappropriate. Yeah.
And I'll echo what I've said before. I want to look at it very carefully, but I also want to look at it in the larger context of all the special monies that we've received, because I think
Exactly.
my understanding is going to be much, much better if I have that,
Yep.
that larger context.
Good.
So when would we expect to discuss that if,
Probably with our budget discussions, because they dovetail, obviously.
so it wouldn't affect the warrant article?
Oh, no. So these are ways to soften the blow. This isn't going
I
to,
get what it is. I'm just saying
it's to,
it would, well, okay.
so just think of it this way. We vote the number town meeting.
But I know you can always reduce it, I get.
No, we don't want to reduce the top number. We want to then,
Right, put Alec, yes, I get that.
I don't think we have the bandwidth or the time we need to
Right,
do
it's not a-
something that significant.
No.
That's my personal opinion, if somebody wants to disagree with me.
So when you say this will be part of our budget conversations, those are going to start to ramp up
Yes,
right now.
exactly.
Okay.
But I don't think it's the intention to try to change that top number. I don't think that's,
No, yes, I get it. It's
That
a way
doesn't-
to pay for that top.
because we have to
number.
bond it
Yes.
and, yeah. I'm not a bond expert, but I think that you've got to sort of, but the FinCom will continue those conversations, I'm sure. And anything else on the middle school project?
Well, only this, that the school committee has 2 reps on the building committee. So if you have questions for Alexa and for me about the VE list, we don't have a lot of time. So we'd advise you speak with us and Lori
Yeah.
post haste.
Yeah, and then, I continue to have, just want to be sure that we continue to have the discussions about solar. So in terms of, my big concern is that we fully have designed solar into plugging it in. So I think we need to have more coordination with Dave Wood and the people who are designing the solar. So everybody agrees that, yeah, the infrastructure's there, except the solar. So we don't want to have to go back and say, oh, we're going to have to dig another something or other out of the parking lot, because.
So this is interesting because the Solar Design Associates layout for solar suggests that it would generate more than the 100% capacity required by the school when it was in operation. So I think it is for the light plant to tell us, is that the scale they want, or was that first cut and they're going to pull it in to right size it for the building, or do they want to throw more into the grid for town customers? We haven't heard that. I'll tell you what we have heard on 2 occasions is when we asked the light plant director, Dave Wood, should we foresee the solar panels and the install coming in 2, 3, 4 years from school opening? His answer was along the lines of, I don't think this town would wait that long.
No.
Correct.
So he's looking at a much tighter timeline, but beyond that, he wasn't willing to give us numbers. I've got back of the envelope numbers of a couple of $1 million for the panels, but I'm not qualified to.
I think that this will come up at the public hearing, which is in December. So we think that the building committee should be ready for those questions, whether they're appropriate or not, right? Because I know it's a hybrid.
Can I ask a solar question? Were the and I am not on the building committee. Were they part of the original scope? Was the infrastructure part of it? Were the panels part of it? What was part of the scope of what was going into the building?
Scope is all the structural and all the conduits necessary so that panels can be affixed to the roof. Help me, Lori, a pad so that the huge battery storage can be put adjacent to the school at a future date, and the runs to the parking lot for the canopies. But it would only be the runs. It wouldn't be the towers or the panels themselves. Is that about right? And so what I just described is in fact in the current 103.
Then what are we, if it meets the scope, what are we seeking to talk about beyond that?
That the town of Concord is going to want that solar installed on our school, and we're the school committee, and we should be on top of it.
Just sort of, this discussion is to sort of nudge the town, if you will?
Yep, but I think it's also to be sure that.
Or to say that we're as eager as everybody else is to have a school complete. I think that's the general driver here is.
But there's nothing we can really do other than nudge.
Advocate, yes. We're department of the town.
If we want,
Plants department of the town,
because the town manager and the light plant have taken this on.
No, right, but again, I just wanted to make sure there's
Which we
nothing
appreciate.
explicit that we can do other than advocate, nudge, whatever verb you choose.
It is going to be our school at the end of this project, our school,
Sure.
that school committee. So, and I want to be sure that we do our darndest to be sure that it's completed as soon as possible. I know you've got people bumping into each other, and you got to get the school finished and open, but then how can we make that happen as soon as possible? That's all.
I wonder if there's a time to pen a letter to the light board and express your commitment to that and ask for theirs.
Yep. Sounds good.
Formalize it. I'm looking at the light board group right now. I don't think you're going to get anyone who doesn't want to do it. So
No,
I think you just
by no means, yeah.
Right.
formalize the.
And I don't think they've discussed it formally either, the light board, as far as I've known. Been trying to pay attention to their agendas, so, okay.
Do you need, to Lori's point, do you need an explicit directive from us for that, Cynthia?
That we write a letter.
Yeah. That would be a letter over your name
Yeah.
as chair.
But we should read a draft of it in the next meeting or something, right?
Good, that'd
Okay.
be fine, okay.
Good. Are we on to anything else with the building?
I see you've got a member of the public, FinCom, Chris Reynolds. You want to
Hi.
recognize her?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Cynthia. So just a little reminder. So we had a meeting last Thursday, and I'm going to be issuing a letter tomorrow to the select board. And that is the results of the meeting we had on Thursday, which was the second, I think, of 3 meetings on the Concord long-term capital plan. So the focus of our discussion on Thursday was really around the middle school debt. So you're just talking about the final discussions on pricing, I think, on Friday with the middle school building committee. This letter that you'll be copied on, Cynthia, will show our recommendations with respect to how the town might be able to soften the very significant impact of adding $100 million in debt in FY26. And it requires building up stabilization reserves. It requires tinkering with the terms of the debt. Some recommendations that we have for the select board for them to consider, and obviously for you folks to take a look at as well. So that letter probably will be issued tomorrow.
Very creative session that you had.
Yes, it was.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
Great. And we have one of your colleagues up next after our variance report. So thank you, Mary. Thank you, Chris. Mary's coming up. Anything else in the middle school?
I think that's about it.
Okay.
That's it for now.
All right. On to the variance report.
Yeah.
Great.
Just stand in.
Same as the high school, 2 reports, the 100 and the 1,000. We are, again, bottom line budgeting right now up until really the new year. We'll get everything in line as IDEA and circuit breaker comes in. But we are tracking well. And any questions?
No. Tracking well is good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next item is a discussion with Mary Hartman from the Finance Committee. And I will, the Finance Committee voted that we should discuss a method to capture the operating savings we expect if the town votes to move forward with the consolidated middle school. So Mary?
Sure, you want me to take it over?
Yes, I would like you to do that.
Thank you. Just as a background for everyone, on September 20th, I believe, the select board looked at ways to mitigate the impact of the debt service from the middle school. And like Chris said, part of it was to do with the capital spending, but we also came up with some other ideas. And one of the ideas that was floated was the operational savings that we expect to realize because we're consolidating 2 schools into 1. So the question that was discussed at that meeting wasn't whether these savings will actually occur, because we do expect them to occur. They were, in fact, in April of 2019, when the 1.5 million was approved for the feasibility study, these were estimated to be about $500,000. And I think we're expecting them, it might even be more than that with the solar, but we expect them to be at least $500,000. So the question isn't whether we'll have operating savings. The question really was, what's the mechanism? What's the best mechanism to capture those and redirect them to help us pay the debt and therefore mitigate to a small extent the impact to the property taxes? So we kind of tossed around some ideas, and the best idea we came up with is that we would in fact take the money off of the guideline budget. So every year the school committee comes and the school comes to the finance committee with a starting budget. This year it would be their FY22 budget, and we talk about what increments need to be added to that for FY23. So what we're proposing is that we would simply take that year budget. It wouldn't be FY22. It would be the year the school actually comes online if we vote it. It would be that year when we would simply take the amount of operating savings off of the starting number when we talk about guideline incremental spending. So with that, I will stop talking and answer questions. Was that clear to people?
That's clear, and it's so simple, I don't have any questions.
Makes sense.
And
Does it?
Mary and Chris, we want to thank you for the attention you've paid to this and to all of the work you've conducted on behalf of town finances and schools in particular, where we benefit from this relationship. Thank you. We know it's not easy.
Very creative.
Thank you, Court. Thank you, Court. Appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering, Cynthia, if there are no questions, if you want to take a vote to approve this method, and we can bring it all nice.
So the thing is, we can't bind future school committees.
I know. It's a message in a bottle.
I see this, Mary, as a heads up that this is, we should assume this is the way you're going to move, and we should plan accordingly, is what I'm hearing. And we could accept it or reject it. It wouldn't change what you do. So we appreciate you being timely about it.
Yeah, that's true, Court, but what came out of the brainstorming session was a to-do for FinCom and the school committee, and this was the to-do, agree upon a method. So that was sort of the process that we started. So when we go back to the select board, whenever they decide to sort of come back through that list of brainstorming ideas, that's the question I think they'll be asked: have you agreed upon a process?
Right.
So I'm just trying to think of logistics. We don't have a vote scheduled, and neither did we have a way to frame this in a formal way. But I'm not saying we will not. I just don't want to do it without having it be really don't want to take votes without having them on the agenda. I would say the consensus of this group is that we would definitely support that, but we could come back perhaps with an agenda item for the next meeting. I just need to talk to superintendent and the vice chair and just figure out a good mechanism to do that, where it doesn't sound like we're trying to bind a school committee that in 2025 or whenever this comes up, which will be 2025.
But we do recognize exactly what we said to you in 2019. So this simply reaffirms our earlier understanding, even though that number was a projection then. And Mary, as you say, it may not be the actual number. You mentioned solar, for example, that might have some benefits.
And I don't think we've done a full analysis of the operational savings. How could we, sort of like,
no.
That's just.
No, I don't think we're asking for a number. I
understand.
But the select board doesn't expect us to come back with a number. It wouldn't be a good number. We know that. Yeah. I think they were expecting us to come back with an agreement on a process.
And a mechanism to do it.
And the mechanism to do that. And the mechanism would be to reset the guideline number. And we would probably have to prorate that because the school's going to probably open over, straddle a fiscal year, and we can do that. But I guess I feel like we have an action item, and I'd like to get closure on that and kind of bring it to the select board with some kind of a commitment from both the school committee and the FinCom.
When is their next meeting regarding this topic?
When is it, Chris? Is it December, right?
They didn't say, I don't know the answer to that. All that Terry said at the original meeting was before the vote. So sometime in sometime before January 20th, she's expecting to get back together with the groups who had to-dos on that list. I think there were 15 items or so.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll try to take that up at our November 30th meeting.
Perfect, perfect, thank you.
I think the appropriate way forward for us is for you, the chair, to sit down with Dr. Hunter and Jared
Yep.
and debate and discuss, are there alternatives that this school committee should also look at? We have one that's very clear right here.
Mhm.
And
Alternatives to a mechanism or what?
yes, exactly, because
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
question, is mechanism. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Good.
Well, do we have one now? Is there another mechanism that we could discuss or bring back to the FinCom?
I'm not suggesting there should be an alternative. What I'm suggesting is that Cynthia and Lori sit down and then come back to this school committee with an answer to that question.
Okay, that's good enough.
And failing any other alternatives, this one then looks different because it's the only way forward.
Yeah.
Or if there's another way forward, then we have to choose one, this one being the first recommendation in front of us.
Okay.
Maybe Bitcoin, I'm not sure.
To me, it's just, I'm not debating the merits of your I'm not debating the merits of your recommendation, Mary. What I'm saying
That's
is,
okay.
this is just the diligence that we have to do.
There
That's all.
might be, there could be a better idea.
Okay,
That's fine. Great. Okay, thank you.
thank you for your time, both of you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you,
I
Chris.
believe we have reached the end of our agenda, unless I missed something, which I hope I have not. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Anderson, I.
Booth, aye.
Morano, I.
Rainey, aye. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.